My story, baby, sure enough it's true. My heart is aching, calling on out to you. This sad dream, you wonder why. Well, this is my last goodbye. So many smiles down through the years, but my laughter, baby, sure enough turned to tears. Seemed like the truth turned to a lie. Well, this is my last goodbye. baby, there's one thing I know, that my love follows you where you go. It's time to say, no need to cry. Well, this is my last goodbye. Take my time. You got a jealous husband, and I'm too young to die. I think I'll get out of here before the bullets fly. Always been a gambler, taking chances on my life. All these backdoor love affairs, it's just like shooting dice. Hostage in danger, that's what keeps me satisfied. I think I'll get out of here before the bullets fly. My first bet when I was just 21, found myself in New Orleans on the wrong end of a gun. Stage keep getting higher, but somehow I survived. By knowing when to leave the game before the bullets fly. You know I hate to leave you, gotta take my time. You got a jealous husband, and I'm too young to die. I think I'll get
Tampa. Good morning, council members. We're a little sorry we had a little technical difficulty this morning, but we're up and running now. All right, I think Mr. Miranda's downstairs for the invocation.
Yes, sir.
Good morning, sir. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman. Today is a special day in the city of Tampa. We have an individual who not only has served 17 years as a police officer, but 25 years as one of the clergymen in the police department, and he's done a fantastic job. But more than that, way back in 1976, he was what's called the Fearless Four, and it was not about football. It was about 4 individuals who filed a discrimination complaint against the city of Tampa for discriminatory, and those 4 individuals were upheld, and they went to court, and everything was settled. And they're the ones that changed not only things in the city of Tampa, but for opportunities for all minorities, black, Hispanics, whatever. Do you have today, because these 4 individuals made it happen, and they're the ones that took that first step forward, not backwards, to say there's something wrong, not only in Tampa, but throughout the United States. And for that, these Fearless Four, and was Frank Gray, Rufus Lewis, Clarence Nathan, and Jim Dukes. And they have played a pivotal role in making the city and these United States a little bit better than what it was before. And for that, we have today one of them here with us, Mr. Clarence Nathan, to say the prayer.
Good morning, and thank you, Mr. Miranda. Father in heaven, we come now today to give honor and praise with thanksgiving to your glorious and mighty name. We thank you for this day that you have made today. We choose to rejoice and be glad in. We ask your blessings in this holiday season upon the families of our great citizens of this city of Tampa. We ask your blessing will be with them. We pray, Father God, for the families who lost 4 of their children on yesterday, and 7 that were wounded and injured as a result of the shooting in Detroit. Lord God, we ask that you would pour out your spirit upon them. We pray for the families here in our city who've lost children to gun violence. We ask that your blessing would be with them. Be with them, bless now our city as they come together. Father, for the good of our city, bless this council, we pray. We ask that your blessing to be upon the mayor and upon the city, in the mighty name of Christ our Savior and our Lord. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Got to fold us a little bit this morning, gentlemen.
Thank you, sir.
All right. All right. Roll call, Ms. Danielle.
Carlson.
Here.
Maniscalco. Here. Dingfelder.
Here, good morning.
Citro.
Here.
Vieira. Miranda. Goods.
Here.
We have a physical quorum.
All right. There's Mr. Vieira. He is here. Footnote there. And of course, Ms. Miranda was downstairs. Mr. Shelby.
Yes. Good morning, Mr.
Morning.
Chairman. Thank you. Good morning, City Council. Good morning, members of the public. Martin Shelby, City Council Attorney. Today is Thursday, December 2nd, 2021, and we are here at Old City Hall at 315 East Kennedy Boulevard. Today's meeting of the Tampa City Council is being conducted with a live in-person quorum, as you've heard, of the City Council present in City Council chambers. However, in light of continuing COVID-19, government-issued health standards or guidance in effect, members of the public have the ability to participate virtually through video teleconferencing, referred to by Florida statutes and rules as communications media technology. Now, the public and the citizens of Tampa are able to watch, listen, and view this meeting on cable TV, Spectrum Channel 640, Frontier Channel 15, and on the internet at tampa.gov/live stream. Now, the members of the public are able to communicate by alternative methods. One, by sending written comments by internet or web, or comments by email, comments by U.S. mail. And the instructions for those are available on the City Council's webpage at tampa.gov/City Council, one word. Also, there is the opportunity to speak remotely during public comment with the use of CMT. Again, those instructions are available on the city's website, and it requires pre-registration. So that is an option that the people have to participate virtually. Now, for those individuals who don't have access to a communications media device, they have the option of coming to use the facilities that we have here at Old City Hall during this meeting, and that is at 315 East Kennedy Boulevard on the second floor. And please note that use of masks and social distancing inside the building are encouraged. Now, to participate remotely in land use and alcoholic beverage public hearings, pre-registration is required if they want to appear remotely. And please note, per the instructions, that cell phones and smartphones for those quasi-judicial matters are not compatible, as they will not allow you to share your camera when connected. Also, council, the emails that have been received have been distributed to City Council and are available and uploaded to the public so long as the deadline is met pursuant to Council's rules. Council, that being said, I would ask you to waive your standing rules to adopt these hybrid and live virtual meeting rules as part of the process.
Motion to waive. Mr. Maniscalco has moved it. Ms. Randall, second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you, sir.
All right, Mr. Shelby, let's get through the house cleaning business, sir. I know that Mr. Dingfelder has asked, received the memo as regarding to item number 10. Mr. Dingfelder?
Yes, sir. Chatted briefly with Chief of Staff this morning. So what I'd, pursuant to his request, what I'd like to do is push this up to staff reports. That way they can have time to share some documents with me, and we'll see what we do with it.
You hear about that?
So, Mr. Chairman, that item is being pulled from the consent docket
Full
to staff
consent.
reports?
Put it,
Right.
we'll put it
Pull
to
from
us.
consent, put it to
Go to staff reports. Did receive several calls on that as well.
Second.
All right, so, anything else, sir?
And I think item 20, I had a question about why we were buying standard vehicles instead of hybrids or e-cars, and Mr. Bennett, I think, is in front of us, and staff is requesting a continuance on that. John Bennett?
Mr. Chair, as chair of the Public Safety Committee, I have also spoken with staff, and I would like to continue that until December 16th.
All right, motion continue. Then Mr. Tingle moved it. I think Mr. Public Safety, Mr. Citro, second. All in favor?
So that's
Thank
bundled,
you.
that's bundled 10 and 20?
No, just 20.
Just 20.
Just 20.
Just 20. 20 is going to be continued. That was December
16th is what,
16th, all right?
yes. Now, with regard to, back to number 10.
Let's clear the
do-
motion, make sure all in favor.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you. Let's see now, there is do you wish to go through the items just very
I'm gonna,
briefly?
yeah, we're gonna go through that as usual, sir.
Okay.
We have addendum for a walk-on from Mr. Brody, city attorney.
Did you need any, this is just a motion setting a public hearing. Would you like to take that under consent docket, add it to the consent docket?
That'll be fine.
Okay. Unless there's a need for staff to be present. Okay, thank you. That
Okay.
then is added to the agenda as part of the approval. There is a motion we could take up under new business. We'll get to that at the end of the meeting. With regard to item number 87, Mr. Chairman, there's a request to move the order of business as to the staff reports.
Yes, we had talked with Chief of Staff during my agenda review. There's several people from your board, Mr. Dingfelder, board, who want to, not public comment, they're part of the presentation. So let me make clear, part of the presentation, not public comment. So I want to move that up first, because a lot of people want to get them out of here and get them moving.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir, you recognize.
Thank you, Martin Shelby. Just also to inquire, there was questions about people who wish to appear, I believe, from the pension boards on number 88, and they were just wondering, that'll be taken up in the afternoon?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and
It will be in the
perhaps-
afternoon.
Yeah, we can give them some guidance at that time.
Yeah, we'll keep them monitored, because we're gonna need them. That's gonna be a hot topic as well today. It's crucial that we speak with the pension folks. So we'll make sure that Brandon, I think she's been doing the contacts with them, and she's gonna keep them abreast of what, when we get close. Mr. Maniscalco, you're recognized.
Mr. Chairman, in regards to item number 88 and the chief being here and everything that's just been mentioned, I don't know if there are any firefighters that are in the audience, but I think it would be, just my suggestion, right, since they are city employees and considering the circumstances, that they be able to speak at least at the time the chief speaks or before or after, not just at public comment, because this discussion is going to go on into the afternoon, and what they say could get lost. And
I don't wanna have a double dipper there, so if they want to speak, and this council wants to allow them to speak during that time on 88, you know, we're not gonna have long speeches, but I'll give them that pleasure if council wants that. But I don't wanna go here and there. Any, Mr. Carlson, you recognize, sir?
Yeah, I would second that. There are some firefighters and former firefighters that have reached out to me, and I assume all of you. One of them emailed us, and they would like to speak during that time. And so I agree with you. If they speak in the morning, they shouldn't speak again later. And so some might be here and want to speak once. But I think at that time, either before or after the chief, we should allow firefighters, former firefighters, to have their 3 minutes. They need to know now because they'll need to make sure that they're available in the afternoon.
Mr. Maniscalco, you putting a motion on the floor, sir?
so that's my motion, that the firefighters, current and former, that are affected by the situation, if they do not speak now during the regular public comment, that they would have to wait till the afternoon when the chief speaks, so we can all have it together. But if they do speak now at 9 a.m., they don't get a second bite at the apple, just to be fair. So that would be my motion.
Second by Mr. Carlson, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted.
Thank you very much.
For item number 88. Mr. Shelby, I know you're probably going to have also something on the new business. It did not make the addendum that we thought it would, sir?
Yes, I'll bring that up regarding your February and March workshops. I'll bring that up under new business.
All right.
Thank
All right,
you,
let's
sir.
get the staff reports, gentlemen. You took a look at your pages, make sure that if we don't need people, they don't have to be here. We can release them. Item number 84. I know that's going to be heard. That's the crime, multi-crime housing bill, so I know they're going to be present for that.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Respectfully,
I'm sorry.
Respectfully, if you could go back to number 80,
Jump to 80.
those are resolutions because of the placed pursuant to I suspect, well, the one is a continuance, number 80, and then the other one is related to the amount of the item. The question is whether you need staff to appear for either of those, or council would be prepared to move the resolutions without staff present, if you have no questions.
Any questions, gentlemen, about item 80 and 81 to move?
Yeah, I think we should have a discussion on 80.
80 is the sod issue.
Right.
Number 80, is that,
And 81, I'm a little disappointed on the BBE.
I did ask about that yesterday too, and the gentleman couldn't really give me any answers.
The Wimby was
Low.
8%. I think the BBE was like 4% is what I was told. You want to talk to them about that one?
We'll talk to Brad about it. It's a high dollar amount.
82, whose motion was
I'm
that
sorry, what was
originally?
that with regard to 81? Staff present?
He wants 80 where in 81. So 80 and 81, they'll be here have them here.
82 was Mr. Carlson's motion.
Yeah, I think 82 is ideally would lead to some kind of proposed ordinance.
Right. And
Do you want staff then for that purpose?
Yes.
Right. And I believe Commissioner Overman called me this morning and said she sent over a memorandum to all council members.
She emailed all of us.
Okay, so hopefully Debbie will get that to me.
This was her idea and her suggestion.
Right,
She did the same thing in the county.
Right, and I made the motion for legal to look at that. All right, so
Item 83 is a written quarterly report. Is there a need for any additional discussion in the staff to be present?
anyone need 83?
Agree.
Ms. Miranda?
I agree.
Release staff on number 83 or have them present? I'm sorry.
I think he said he wanted them here, correct, sir? Ms. Miranda? You said you wanted them here for 83, sir?
I don't need to be,
Okay.
somebody else, I don't.
All right, we can
I agree
release them.
with you.
We can release them for 83.
83, staff is released. Thank you.
84, we'll need them here, of course, for that. 85, gentlemen?
Yeah, they need to report.
All right. 86, we have a draft ordinance. Of course, they'll need to be here for that. Ordinance bill. 87, they're going to be here, and 88. All right, so that rounds that out.
Thank you.
Gentlemen? All right.
Motion.
Motion approved the agenda.
So
So
moved.
moved. Second.
Mr. Dingfellow moved it. Mr. Carlos, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted. we're open for business. Good morning, Mr. Vieira.
Good morning, Mr. Chairman.
I'm glad that you were able to do the honors for me this morning. We got a packed house. I know you got a bunch of accommodations. Thank you for doing this for me this morning, Chair.
Yes, sir. Always my pleasure. And this is a very special commendation that we have here today.
Is it
They're
now?
all special, but especially for Eileen Rosario, who many of us know. We know her from television, and
movie star?
Mr. Simon is going to be explaining a little bit more as to what a unique employee she has been. But you know, Steve Simon always says that ATU keeps the city running on time, and that has especially been true in the last year and a half, 2 years during the COVID crisis, when so many of our city workers, from first responders, sanitation, everyday workers, parks and recreation, have stepped up, often placing themselves in the line of danger to keep our city running on time. And as we will talk about, this particular employee has done a marvelous job on so many critical issues. So I welcome Mr. Simon.
Good morning,
Thank
Mr.
you,
President.
Councilman. Good morning, Council, Chairman. Good morning, City Council and City of Tampa. I'm Steve Simon, President of ATU Local 1464, and it is my pleasure to be here today to introduce you to the ATU Employee of the Month, Eileen Rosario. Eileen started her career with the city 6 years ago as an Office Support Specialist 3 in the Development Coordination Division. She learned the city's budget, procurement process, and Excel systems while serving as the main translator in the office to Spanish speakers. In 2019, Eileen was promoted to Planning Permit Technician, and in this role, she became responsible for processing vendor permits, business operating permits, and administrative support for formal decisions, while continuing in the OSS role, completing the required administrative duties on an ongoing basis. During 2020, while city offices were closed to the public and many employees were predominantly working from home, Eileen volunteered to physically come into the office 3 times a week to complete banking transactions, process the division's mail, and provide signs for the public hearings that continued to be conducted. She was essential in keeping the city, our clients, and city council's work moving forward at a time when many parts of our world had come to a standstill. In relation to city's quasi-judicial proceedings, the city of Tampa adapted to the circumstances we experienced in order to keep our city moving forward and the applications we received processed. Eileen Rosario was and continues to be an instrumental part of this process. From the Convention Center kiosk to the second floor at Old City Hall, each hearing she is there, a familiar smiling face, assisting the public with the city's current hybrid public hearing process. She has worked tirelessly alongside City Council until the final case has been heard and all public participants have had an opportunity to participate. In addition to her daily responsibilities and involvement with the City Council public hearings, Eileen also serves as the Secretary to the Variance Review Board, attending the once-a-month meeting in order to take minutes, receive evidence, and swear in witnesses. Eileen continues to work to better the division, suggesting process improvement and cost savings, including but not limited to consolidating numerous public notice signs into one standard sign, which reduces the overall cost and resulted in a cost savings for the division. Eileen Rosario exemplifies public service, exhibits dedication, and meets each citizen and customer with a smile. She is what is right with the city of Tampa and continues to serve to transform Tampa's tomorrow. We appreciate you, Eileen, and everything that you do and your participation in keeping the city of Tampa running. And as a token of our appreciation, on behalf of ATU Local 1464, I would like to present you with the $100 gift card. Congratulations.
And now, before Eileen speaks, we do have some community partners who are here who would like to also give some generous gifts as well.
Thank you, Thunderbug.
Good morning, Council. Pete Brevy on behalf of Busch Gardens, Tampa Bay. As I always say when we do these presentations, I want to thank Council's continued participation and recognition of the city employees. It's very important. It's important on more levels than you can imagine. And for Ms. Rosario, your bio is incredible. Being a former city employee, I understand how important your job is, and you obviously excel and do an exemplary job at that. And on behalf of Neil Thurman and Busch Gardens, we'd like to present you and your family with 4 tickets to come join us at Busch Gardens anytime you like. And if you have a bigger family than that, just please contact me and I can take care of that as well. But thank you for what you do.
Thank you so much. I tell you, Pete, you're looking young every day, son. You're looking young every day, man.
What was that?
You're looking young every day, son.
I don't know. I can't look as good as you.
Good seeing you, man.
How are you? See, I think I know this person. Let me tell you a couple of stories about Eileen. It's all true. It's all true. She comes in early, she stays late. She is probably one of the most dedicated city employees that there is around. And if by chance you have to get a sign posted for a rezoning or a variance, and you're on the deadline of the last day that it has to go up, she stays there and makes sure you get that sign. So you don't have to have a continuance. You don't have to keep going back and then, explaining why you didn't get the sign posted in time. If you have to have your documents notarized regarding your notice, she's there. If you, for whatever reason, you can't get something uploaded into a Acela, you just send it to her. And she said, Eileen, I've got a problem with this, and for some reason it's not letting me upload it. She will upload that. I can tell you that she is probably, one of the best assets that Land Development Coordination has, because it's the staff that really keeps things moving. The upper level staff makes the decisions. The lower level staff makes sure that the machines continues to work. So anyway, with that being said, we'd like to provide Eileen with a gift certificate to the Chicho Restaurant Group so she can enjoy herself there with breakfast, lunch, or dinner. The Yummy House China Bistro, we're going to provide you with a gift certificate so you can enjoy yourself there. And I put an extra card in there because I know you're going to have friends from the staff that are going to want to go with you. And also Bella Brava, which is a new Italian restaurant over in the Midtown. So anyway, I can't tell you more good things about Eileen and her dedication, and the city should be very proud of what she does for everyone and not just anyone. So thank you so much, and we appreciate you.
And anyone else, Ms. Post, Abby, anyone else want to say any words? Okay, Mr. Simon, go ahead, sir.
I would also like to mention that we have a letter from the mayor, that I'd like to present to you as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So Eileen, now you may speak with him.
I want to say Eileen Rosario.
Eileen Rosario, Development Coordination. There's a lot of people here who want to speak tonight. On behalf, I really want to take this time to say thank you to my coworkers, to my bosses, and to my children that they keep me going. But I do want to take this time to say thank you so much. I love my job, and I want to continue doing the best that I can. So when I hit 80, and you guys see me in that wheelchair, still at Land Development, make sure you get your sign. Thank you so much, everyone, for everything.
And now, Council.
All right, anyone? Ms. Pascal, go. You recognized.
Real quick, thank you so much for everything. You're very, 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 very dedicated because you're here with us many, many long hours, and we appreciate you very much. Congratulations and thank you.
Thank you.
You recognized, sir. Ms. Carlson.
Just 2 quick things. I said hi to her downstairs before, and she was nervous, and you maybe could see that a little bit, but she's on TV every week, but she was still nervous about this, so appreciate your humbleness in accepting this. But also, to add to all the many, many things that everybody else said that I agree with, I just want to say personally that I appreciate, I think my colleagues appreciate your positive energy at the end of the very, very long nights. Seeing you come up and smile full of energy, whether you're saying there are people here or not people here, it gives us a bolt of energy to keep going for the night. So thank you for inspiring us.
Thank you.
Recognize her.
Senora Rosario,
Yes, Mr.
you and I have worked together for many, many years. And it is always great to see your happy, smiling, shiny face. Thank you for being a member of the family, and thank you for helping me all these years. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Stingville?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Eileen, I agree with my fellow councilman, especially as those evenings get later and later, your smile never diminishes. But more importantly, you're the face of the city in so many ways. And it's so important for us to have friendly, helpful people like yourselves. And Stephen, we appreciate you and everybody behind you from the planning department. And Eileen, congratulations.
Thank you.
Randy, recognize her.
Señora, un placer verla con su sonrisa como siempre cuando está aquí los jueves por la noche. Se está riendo con nosotros, estamos aquí hasta las 12 de la mañana.
Gracias.
Pero es un placer porque siempre lo hace con una sonrisa, con una presentación de su corazón. Y hay muy pocos empleados que pueden hacer lo que usted hace. Muchísimas gracias por todo lo que ha hecho.
Gracias a usted. Que tenga un buen día.
Well,
In English, it means thank you.
well, let me say this. A couple of words were said, and before she received the award from Mr. Vieira and Stephen, you notice how she was in the back, how she was about to cry? That tells me that she was grateful, and she's grateful of this award. And she's very giving of this award. And a couple of points I took away from all the council members and Steve and Lewis, when you talk about a smile, she's always smiling. So that means when people are angry or upset, she's always smiling, just like my Aunt Debbie, always smiling. So people don't get angry because they see that smile and they just, it makes that anger go away and it makes them feel that somebody cares about the situation, no matter what the situation is. So you keep on smiling, Miss Eileen. We're happy that you got that award because you do work hard for us those late nights, and when sometimes we're missing janitorial service, you're there wiping it down and doing everything. It isn't your job to do, but you fill in and fill the gap. So we're appreciative of that. But what I'm gonna do for you, everything is memorable. So this is my house, my diocese. So I'm gonna ask Mr. Vieira to bring you up, and you take a picture with the council so you can always remember that because it's very important. Mr. Vieira, could you do that for us, sir?
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair. And if I may, before we go up there, I would like to formally give Ms. Rosario this wonderful commendation. And she's crying, it's because she's Latin, and we're very emotional people. Trust me, I'm a crier too. So God bless you. Dios te bendiga.
Gracias, gracias.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thank you so much.
Now I guess they're up.
She's happy, folks. She's happy. Gentlemen, let's go ahead and get in position now, Mr. Maniscalco, so when we come, we can get that photo taken, we can keep moving. She's coming up right now.
Mr. Shelby joining us?
Yep.
Let me slide this out of the picture,
Mr. Chair, man, that's loud. I'm going to be staying down here as I have number 2, so
Okay.
just for efficiency.
All
Thank
right.
you. I'll let Eileen know.
Is she coming out? She coming out, right, Ms. Vieira? Okay.
Yes,
Right,
yes,
right,
sir.
let's
She's
move.
coming.
Get her on in here. Yep. Go.
Should maybe in the picture. Lewis?
Mr. Vieira, it won't take us. She's here now. It won't be taking us seconds. Come on up. Let's have council take a photo, and we're gonna get to the bar. So I
Okay.
want you in the photo, sir. Is Shelby there? There.
Mr. Maniscalco is coming up as well. You want the whole?
Yeah, I want just Miss Eileen and Mr. Maniscalco to come on in. We take this photo. We keep it moving.
And Mr. Vieira as well.
Mr. Vieira, It's on the way. Tell them they can take that picture later. We got a council one, so let's get that photo. There we go. Come on, hold up. Vamos. Yes, Mr. Vieira?
I'm here. I was just trying to be efficient.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you very much.
All right.
As long as we're all here, I want to do a holiday picture. Seriously, we used to do holiday pictures all the time.
We do the recorded greeting.
Thank you.
No, yeah, but that was individual, wasn't it?
Folks at home, we appreciate you bearing with us, but when people do a good job, we like to recognize them in the best way we can. And Mr. Vieira, as soon as he gets back down, we're going to get started. But you know, I want to say congratulations to our colleague, Mr. Maniscalco, who tied the knot this past weekend. So I want to say congratulations to him and his new bride, you know?
Mazel tov. And
Mr. Chairman, he's still in a minority, 3-4. There's 4 hours to it. Not tied tonight.
and by coincidence, my wife and I celebrated our 25th.
That's right. I saw that.
25th wedding anniversary.
She's glad to have you, huh?
I'm the 30th. I'm lucky to have her.
Mr. Vieira, item number 2, sir. You got a lot of people down there and a bunch of lawyers down there, right?
Uh-oh.
IT, can we? Here he is.
Yes, sir. Good morning. Real pleasure to be here today. We're here today for a Tampa City Council commendation for the 125th anniversary from 1896 to 2021 for our Hillsborough County Bar Association. We have some very special guests here today. Among them, Corey Person, HCBA President, Amanda Uliano, Judge Jessica Goodwin Costello, who's here, looking lovely as always. Mr. Lance Scriven is here, Hannah Becker, Alexis DeVue, Harold Holder, Mr. John Kynes, who is HCBA Executive Director, Rocky Brancato, who's here on behalf of Julie Holt, and our very own Susan Johnson-Velez, who's a former HCBA president.
Oh, really?
Yep, she's a very distinguished attorney in many, many ways. It's a great pleasure to be here today. This is for the 125th anniversary of the Hillsborough County Bar Association, which started in 1896. It was back in May of 1896 when they had their first meeting. Among the attorneys at that first HCBA meetings were attorneys with names that would resonate throughout Tampa and have such a real impact in our history. Names like Shackelford, Knight, McFarland, and Sparkman, among many, many others. And throughout that time, the HCBA would grow to have so many members who would play such a very, very pivotal role within our city and within our county's history, among them being Mr. Charles Alston, Mr. J. Rex Ferrier, who among many other things was our former state attorney, who took a very anti-lynching, anti-vigilante justice stand during the 1930s, including with the 1934 lynching of Mr. Robert Johnson. Cody Fowler, Morris White, Josephine Howard Stafford, Francisco Rodriguez, Congressman Sam Gibbons, State Senator Arthena Joyner, Delano Stewart, Judge E.J. Salsinas, Judge George Edgecombe, Congressman Jim Davis, Congresswoman Kathy Castro, Warren Dawson, Julie Holt, Bill McBride, Gwen Young, Judge Virginia Covington, Lance Scriven, Judge Scriven, among many, many others. What the HCBA does in our own time here today is so important. Not only does the HCBA play such a pivotal role with our community in terms of improving our community, but the HCBA takes a profession that is so integral and central to our country. The legal profession. It encourages civility. It encourages professionalism. It encourages involvement in the community. I myself, as a very young attorney, got involved with the HCBA and saw my own pathway to public service shaped so very much in my own personal life through the mentorship of so many great men and women at the HCBA. I could talk forever about the HCBA because I'm a big fan. A lot of people make a lot of friends there. I actually met my wife at the HCBA, so I have many, many loves for the HCBA. So it's my great pleasure to introduce, before we give the commendation and some others, my good friend, Mr. Corey Person.
Thank you, Councilman Vieira, members of the City Council. As Mr. Vieira has indicated, you don't get to 125 years without tremendous commitment by just extraordinary people throughout that time. It truly is a celebration to mark 125 years, and it's because we've had the dedication and commitment of so many lawyers throughout our history, both in public service or private practice, whether they're with a large firm, a small firm, across the whole full cross-section of the practice of law, as well as the incredible support of our judiciary throughout our time, and the commitment and support of our community. It's been integral to our growth. We now have close to 3,500 members in our association, and yes, not just Mr. Vieira, but a number of lawyers have met their wives or their spouses by being members in the ACBA. It's not a guarantee, but we're just saying one of the many benefits of it. But it's a tremendous organization. I'm proud to stand here as the third African-American president in our 125-year history, and to be joined by Lance Scriven, our first African-American president of the ACBA, as well as Susan Johnson Velez, the first African-American woman president of the ACBA, and also by John Kynes, our executive director, because along with the commitment of our membership, our staff does such a tremendous job throughout the years of making sure that we are a vibrant, relevant, and robust association for our membership. So I just want to thank you so much for the time, and thank you for being willing to hear us and to present this commendation to our association. We're very thankful and grateful.
Thank you, sir.
Council members, if you'd like to speak before, if anyone.
Mr. Maniscalco, you recognize, sir.
I see a lot of wonderful people in the audience here, and you inspire so many. Lance Scriven, of course, Susan Johnson Velez. We have the judge, so many wonderful people that inspire so many in this community. I hope you understand the impact that you make daily, the reputation that you have, how many people look up to you. Thank you, Councilmember Vieira, for bringing them up and honoring them today. But just know how important you are to this community and your service to so many, and how you inspire so many people. Thank you.
Mr. Carlson, you recognize, sir.
Yeah, thank you to all of you for all that you do. And for disclosure, I'm an associate member. I'm not an attorney, but I'm an associate member. And besides helping the legal community, the bar also helps the broader community in many, many ways. And I've been happy to be a part of that, and appreciate all the hard work you all do individually with your firms, with your companies, and the other groups that you're involved in. The attorneys in our community are always top leaders in nonprofits and provide all kinds of important guidance. And also, I said hi to most of you on the way in, but special shout out also to John Kynes for his actual leadership of the organization from an administrative point of view, and all that he's done over the years. Thank you.
Citro?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. With all the friends I see in front of me, I know the integrity that this group has, and I thank you for all the hard work that you all have done over the years. Thank you very much.
Counselor?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Corey, thanks for those great words about the organization. As I look at that group, especially Lance, we go back to law school at FSU, and Susan and I worked together. Rocky and I worked together. John and I have been friends for 30 years, I think, as members of the HCBA. One of the most important things I think that the Bar Association does, not only at the state level, but especially at the local level, is to educate the community about lawyers and about the importance of the law. I remember giving tours to kids in the courthouse. I hope you guys are still doing that, because it's so important at a young age. I think lawyers get a bad rap, and it's up to us to fix that. For whatever reason, television and certain other media sources like to like to put us in a bad light, but they don't recognize that we are the defenders of the Constitution, and without lawyers and the rule of law, we wouldn't have this great country that we do. And I know I'm preaching to the choir with you folks and with the HCBA, but keep up the good work, and thank you for all you do.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you see, I look out to the audience now, and those are next to Mr. Vieira, and I see some that practice defense law, some practice plaintiff law. Thank God we have a judge among them. Thank you all very much for doing what you do. And I've known the Kynes family for many, many years, including his father. He was a great guy. I believe he was Attorney General. and great family and great neighbors to part of my family. They're very nice people, and no one can do that job better than John. Thank you all very much.
Mr. Vieira, you brought the top people down this morning, huh? The Scrivens, the judge, you know, I mean, tell you do it up, don't you, sir? But on behalf of this council, we're appreciative of what the bar does, appreciative that the work they do in the community, and just appreciative that we have a great association in Hillsborough County that really fights for everybody. And again, thank you, Mr. Vieira, for bringing these kind folks down on an early Thursday morning. God bless you all.
And so, if I may, Mr. Chair, on behalf of Tampa City Council, we present this Tampa City Council commendation to our good friends at the HCBA. I'm very proud to be an attorney and proud to hand this over to you to my good friend Corey. God bless you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Item number 3, I think, Mr. Carlson, this is your item, right, sir?
Yes, sir. As most people know, we have a mayor who is pro-arts and has been very supportive of the arts. We have a pro-arts city council, and the city has been blessed over many, many years to have a poet laureate, James Tokley, whom we all love. This mayor also created a new position, relatively new position, called the Wordsmith of Tampa, and Gianna Russo is just a star and has helped in so many ways build up the arts community and especially the literary community in Tampa. And I'll let her talk about her position, and then I think she's going to read 1 or 2 poems. And she's also got an event coming up that maybe you'll tell us about too. Thank you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. And I'd like to thank Mayor Castor and the council and the Division of Arts and Cultural Affairs for this great honor. The Wordsmith position is part of the Mayor's Art on the Block program, and our mission is to make art accessible to everyone, and in my case, especially to engage and empower our citizens and our neighborhoods through the written word, through creative writing and through poetry. Since coming into this position, I've been involved in several different projects. The first one involved writing a poem about voting so we could get everybody out to vote. That was back in the fall. From there, I was involved in the honor of writing a poem about the debut of a piece of artwork on the Rich House in Robles Park. This artwork was by Yala Ford, and that was a really great, wonderful moment. In April, which is National Poetry Month, I spearheaded a community-wide project of poetry writing, and we solicited poems about Tampa, paying an homage to Tampa from everyone in the city, and we got dozens of wonderful poems, celebratory poems. And the lines of some of those best poems got put on a sculpture that we're calling the Poetry Post. And the Poetry Post is a wonderful piece of artwork that is going to be touring the city over this next year. And you'll be able to see some of those pieces of poetry, and you'll be able to write your own poem and put it into a mailbox on the Poetry Post. Most recently, we just completed our 15 Days of Gratitude, and this again was a citywide initiative where we solicited poems from people about things that they were thankful for, leading all the way up to Thanksgiving. So I'd like to share my poem that I wrote for 15 Days of Gratitude. It's been beautifully printed on a nice little card, and these cards are going to be attached to the food baskets that the city is going to be distributing throughout the holidays. This is called Thinking About Gratitude. Twice a week, my garbage disappears. Each night, the school janitor arrives, her cart stocked with godliness. Not long ago, a nurse touched my back and said to me, "Breathe." A waiter set down my plate. When I wish my life were different, I breathe and notice street lamps throwing purple shadows. In the yard, an owl is singing. Thank you all so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Carlson.
Yeah, just one last thing. Writers, and I'm a part-time writer, I haven't published anything, but Gianna's published a bunch of books, and one of them is coming out next year with Jenny Carey. I'm looking forward to that. But the writers survive, and we support the arts community by buying things from artists. And so she wouldn't say this, but I'll say Google her name and buy one or more of her books, because that helps support the literary community and shows that artists in our area can be successful. Thank you.
Anyone else? Mr. Dingfelder, you recognize, sir.
Good morning, Gianna. Thank you for joining us here today. Not only do you produce great poetry and works of art, but you produce great children, including your son Anthony, who is a good friend of ours, a great Rotarian, and a great Rotary president, and now a great environmentalist.
Yes, thank you, John.
Yep, thank you.
Anyone else?
Thank you. Poetry is something that settles the mind, settles the surroundings, and makes you think about the reality of life. And with those little words, thank you very much for what you do. And teaches you one other thing. 100% of poetry is nonviolence. Thank you very much.
Thank
Anyone
you.
else?
Thank you.
Well, Miss Russo, thank you so much for coming out and sharing your poem with us. And again, I know people are listening this morning enjoyed some of those things you talked about, because those are everyday realities.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right. Item number 4. Mr. Vieira initiated that. Mr. Vieira, he's down. Is he down there? Brandon?
Jason's there. I see him.
Could we go ahead and make our comments while we're waiting? I'll just say Jason has been a friend to many of us over the years and has been involved in so many events and programs in our community. And one of them is that he's been involved in, I've been involved in, is Cafe con Tampa. He's been a regular speaker there and been involved. And I have to say, he's the most popular speaker we've ever had in that organization. He gets thousands and thousands of hits because of his analyses, not just of COVID, but of other important issues in the community. So thank you to Dr. Wilson.
And if I may, Mr. Chair, pardon me, I didn't know we were up already. Thank you very much. It's my great pleasure. This is the Louis Vieira Commendation Hour, apparently. It's my great pleasure to give Dr. Jason Wilson at Tampa City Council commendation here with his wonderful wife, Neria, who's here, who graces us today, such a wonderful person. And you know, Dr. Wilson's bona fides, we can get into them in terms of his academic, medical, professional bona fides, but the reason we're giving this to Dr. Wilson is because in the last roughly almost 2 years now, our country has suffered about 800, roughly 1,000 deaths from COVID-19. It's been a pandemic. It's been a time of crisis. It's been a time of crisis not just for us as a country economically, but for us morally, and for so many families individually who have lost loved ones. And throughout this time, we have had so many individuals step up. We talked about Ms. Rosario before in her individual capacity, but so many of our medical providers and medical professionals who have stepped up to give people like me, because I'm not a doctor, right, a level of comfort, which is to say, you can do this, medical science says you can do this, but you can't do that. Well, Dr. Jason Wilson here locally has been one of the people on the forefront whose face has always been a comfort to people in Tampa, whose face and words and voice has always been a source of education for people in the city of Tampa when it comes to so many issues, but especially COVID-19. Such a pivotal role for him. So that's why we're giving this man this Tampa City Council commendation. And I know that before he speaks, some folks in the City Council want to opine. So thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Maniscalco?
Well, thank you very much, Dr. Wilson. We appreciate you here with Neria, who we've all known for, we've known each other for over 10 years now, when we met running for City Council. And we appreciate your work that you do for the community, everything during this time of crisis with COVID-19. Councilmember Vieira really has said it all. You've been out there at the forefront. You've been out there informing the community. We see you always on television and in the media, but you're looking out for folks. You're making sure that people are taking care of one another and taking the precautions needed so that we are all safer together, and we certainly appreciate the work and the sacrifice that you make in your service. Thank you, sir.
Anyone else? Mr. Dingfelder, you recognize?
Good morning, Jason, Rhea. It's so wonderful to see you guys. And Jason, not only am I a big fan, but my wife is a huge fan. She reads your emails constantly and trusts you with the health of our family and our community. So thanks for all you do.
Mr. Citro, you recognize?
Dr. Wilson, I thank you very much for keeping the Tampa and Tampa Bay area informed, and especially keeping this council up to date on all the COVID-19 things that come to us and should come to our attention. Thank you very much, Doctor.
Well, Doctor, thank you so much for being able to come down. Mr. Vera, thank you for bringing him. You know, COVID is a serious thing. You know, myself and my colleague, Mr. Miranda, were a survivor of it, and we had it pretty badly. So we thank you for the work that you're doing to enlighten the public. I see everyone's reading all the information, so that means that's a good sign when everyone's being able to get the information from somebody who has some knowledge about the disease. So again, thank you for coming down and the knowledge that you present to everyone.
Thank you, sir. And Doctor, if you'd like to speak, we would love to hear you.
Thank you very much, Councilman, and thank you very much, Council. It's an honor and it's humbling to have your trust and the trust that you place in me, with your families, and in Tampa General with your families. I really am humbled by that trust, and I appreciate that. You know, I have really spent this last 2 years doing what I think is a ethical duty, a responsibility that I have, which is to take complex information, things that I'm seeing, the things that my patients are going through, and try to convey that back to both the public, but also to people like you who are making decisions that protect our public. So I've taken that responsibility very seriously, and I'm humbled and honored to see that you recognize that. And I also very much, you know, appreciate the fact that this is with a mayor and a city council that does listen and read and interacts and engages with scientific information. And clinical information. Just imagine what if we were in a city where we didn't have a council like you and we didn't have a mayor like we have. You know, what if, you know, where my information and the knowledge I was bringing was going on deaf ears, or was being resisted or not supported or not validated or not affirmed. So I very much appreciate your leadership as well over these last 2 years. And I appreciate the fact that I'm at Tampa General, which has been so innovative and leading the way. And this whole area, all the leaders of the hospitals of this area have been so responsive and innovative and engaging in the public. And of course, thanks to Neria and to my family for being patient with me and for giving me the time and space to spend time with the public and with you. So I appreciate it very much. Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you,
So it is our pleasure to give Dr. Wilson this Tampa City Council commendation. Thank you for all that you do. I mean it. I mean it. Thank you. Thank you.
All right. I think Mr. Miranda has something today. Item number 5.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
thank you for allowing us this time this morning to present the award winner of the WaterWise program in the City of Tampa. It's my pleasure to recognize Alan Fedman and Serena Ergas from Hampton Terrace for bringing the winner of the 2021 Community WaterWise Award presented this morning to City Council. You know, we take things for granted in life, and one of them is water. We go through crisis, and we understand that it's the same water that has been falling here for 300 million years. However, it falls wherever it wants to, how it wants to, at whatever location it wants to. And sometimes we have these horrible droughts. And sometimes we have abundance of water, like we've had this year. But the WaterWise program is something that we do every year. And I take it very heartfelt that individuals like Alan Feldman and Serena Ergas have won this award. Although I have one plaque, there's two. I couldn't carry two of them, so I only brought one down. But there's a duplicate upstairs. I appreciate everything that they've done, appreciate what the water department has done years ago, starting this program, to understand what it is about landscaping, friendly waters, and waters that are used very sparingly to make your landscape look beautiful. And I'm very proud this morning to be here with the head of the water department. I call him Kansas, but that's not his real name. I call him Kansas because he comes from Kansas. What's your name? Chuck. Chuck, I knew his name. I just wanted him to say it. I like to embarrass him once in a while. Chuck Wolf. Chuck?
Good morning, Chair, council members. For almost 20 years, the City of Tampa and our neighboring municipalities have recognized attractive and inspiring landscapes with the annual Community WaterWise Award Program. The talented people who create these award-winning landscapes use the principles of Florida-friendly landscaping. This year, the team of judges visited 14 yards in the Tampa-Hillsborough judging area. The gardens are attractive as well as functional with homegrown fruits, vegetables, and wildlife habitat. The Water Department is pleased to celebrate these colorful and diverse landscapes because they don't require a lot of water to be productive and beautiful. They are mainly sustained by rainfall once they are established, and they also require less fertilizer and pesticides. Alan Feldman and Serena Ergas moved to Tampa in 2009. In search of their new home, the grand oak in the front yard of their Hampton Terrace home was one of the deciding factors in making their purchase. Mr. Feldman began his yard transformation by installing WaterWise low-maintenance ground cover around the oak tree, which they estimate is over 300 years old. Mr. Feldman and Ms. Ergas are both professors at the University of South Florida. Mr. Feldman teaches environmental education, and Ms. Ergas teaches civil and environmental engineering. We welcome them to the podium to tell us about their project and accept the 2021 Community WaterWise Award.
Well, thank you very much. I'm honored and humbled by receiving this award. It's really not anything special that we've done. My field is science education, Serena's field is environmental engineering. We've worked all our professional lives and even before then to improve the environment. And bit by bit, little by little, over the 12 years that we've lived in Hampton Terrace, we've done a little bit of this, a little bit of that in terms of improving the garden, improving the yard. And I've learned over the years that grass, lawn grass, basically doesn't grow in Florida, that you have to use a lot of chemicals, you have to use a lot of pesticides, and you need to use a lot of water. And so bit by bit, we've removed the grass, the lawn, and we have 1/3 of an acre of land in Hampton Terrace with no lawn. It's all lovely plantings, there's vegetables, there's fruits, and butterflies and hummingbirds and all sorts of other different animals, raccoons, which we would rather not have. But it's really been a delight to be able to do that. And the last thing I want to say is that there are basically two different ways where you can go about putting together a yard like this. One is to try to do it very quickly and spending a lot of money. The other way to do it doesn't require a lot of money. It just requires time. And of course, sticking a shovel into the ground. So it's not something that is unreachable by the residents of Tampa. We can all do this if we set our minds to it, reduce the water use, reduce the use of fertilizer, reduce the use of chemicals that can harm our family, our children, our pets, and just make Tampa and the Tampa Bay area that much more environmentally safe for all of us. Thank you. Again, I'm really honored and humbled, and of course I wouldn't have been able to do this without my wife, Sabrina Ergus. Thank you.
Oh, no, you're next. You're just as important.
So Alan's a real gardener in the family, but I really appreciate the city and the water department for recognizing us and for promoting water-wise gardens in the city. Thank you.
Thank
On
you.
behalf of the city of Tampa, and I will make this on behalf of city council, and then Mr. Chuck Walter will do the one on behalf of the water department and Mayor Castor. We present you his commendation for doing what you've done, not only yesterday, not only today, but in the future, what you've done for the city of Tampa, water conservation. It means so much for nature. It means so much for solving a little bit of our problems that we have in this country about just being abusive on mostly everything we do. Appreciate it very much. On behalf of the city council, for Alan and Serena, thank you very much for what you do. Really
Thank you.
appreciate it.
Thank you very
And now
much.
here's the one for the city of Tampa.
All right.
There you go.
Thank you.
Water-wise program winner for 2021. Thank you both very much. We're really appreciative. And boy, I look at it, it's easy when you start little by little. I haven't had a Belina grant in my house.
All right, gentlemen,
It's all rock.
public comment.
It's not gonna blow away.
All right, we'll begin public comment.
All right.
Morning, sir.
Good morning, James Michael Shaw Jr. You know me. I'm here to speak about agenda item 84, the crime-free public housing program. I'm glad that I read in the Tampa Bay Times last night that the program is going to be ended, or at least the difficult part of the program where a lease addendum was being provided to landlords that said if anyone in the household or a house guest is arrested, then they can be evicted. An arrest is not a conviction, it is just an arrest. You heard last year from a local attorney, Madge Vasai, who said that he was arrested because a Tampa police officer told him that he didn't like his attitude. That's enough to get you arrested in this town, and your entire family shouldn't lose their home because a police officer didn't like your attitude. So that lease addendum was being given to landlords and asked by the police for the landlords to use them. The landlords complied. Unfortunately, there's no mechanism for the police. They have no authority to tell the landlords to stop using that lease addendum, and it's financially advantageous for them to use it because as rents rise, it's always financially advantageous to evict someone and replace them with someone else on the waiting list who's going to pay the higher rent now that rents have gone up. So it's the Tampa Police Department let that genie out of the bottle. It's very difficult to put it back in, and that's for you to have to clean up for them because they can't clean up after themselves. They can't tell landlords to stop using it. There's a few ways to do it. Last September, I emailed you ordinances from the city of Seattle and the city of Washington, D.C., where they have schemes where either tenants can sue their landlords or landlords can be fined for either including language like that in a lease agreement or trying to enforce it. I don't know if you need to do anything that drastic, but it would be wonderful if the city council could look into passing an ordinance holding that a clause in a lease that says your whole family can be evicted if anyone in the household or any house guest gets arrested, not convicted, just arrested, that's not enforceable in the courts. If you do that, I would ask that you please include language that says even if it's not raised as an affirmative defense, because we saw in the past with eviction moratoriums, judges were evicting them anyways if they didn't know to raise the moratorium as an affirmative defense, which somebody who doesn't have an attorney might not know to do. So if it's not enforceable, it needs to not be enforceable against anybody, not just the people who have an attorney who know how to invoke that. I'd ask the council to look into that. Another thing I wanted to point out too is that you might be told today that no one was actually evicted, that some review was done and it turned out no one was evicted. The Tampa Bay Times article did a pretty good job of picking apart that argument, that that review that you may be told about did not go back far enough. The Tampa Bay Times review went back to 2013 when police were using a database to track offenders that were tied to landlords. And also the person who's on the arrest notice might not necessarily be the person on the lease. So if the son or daughter or the house guest is arrested and then the person on the lease gets evicted, the names aren't going to match. So they're not going to find matches that way. That's not. If you're told that, I just want you to know that it isn't true. It's a clever attempt to mislead you, just like the people who were driven here to speak to you at the last time that this brought up, and taken to the microphone and told to tell you how much they love this program without being briefed first on the part about the evictions. But if it's true that no one's actually been evicted, I'd hope that you'd pass some kind of restitution, because if no one's been evicted, it's not a problem, right?
Thank you, Mr. Shaw. Thank you, sir. All right, next speaker.
Yes, I apologize.
Good morning.
Good
Good
morning,
morning,
ma'am.
City Council. I am Brenda Allen. I am president of the Urban Progress Alliance and also owner and president of Ma'at Sankofa LLC. I'd like to speak to the to the agenda item 84 on the crime-free bill that article that has been presented to our community as a crime-free initiative. So I'd like to bring the attention back to the beginning of this council meeting, opening by the gentleman that did the prayer and was a part of discrimination against African American people. And I also would like to address the resolution presented by Council Chair Orlando Goods, Resolution 568. I believe that the crime-free ordinance or whatever that initiative is a discrimination against primarily Black people in Tampa. And so this resolution 568 called for a reconciliation commission with a mission of studying and developing proposals to redress the enduring negative systemic discrimination and effects of the institutions of slavery and the subsequent systemic discrimination directed at Tampa's African American residents by promoting racial and social equity, providing an effective date. Further, in this resolution, it speaks about convict leasing, Jim Crow laws, redlining, unequal education, and disproportionate treatment at the hands of the criminal justice system. And also, it talks to the guise of legitimate policy, discrimination against African Americans, including economic, political, educational, and social discrimination, resulting in African Americans continuing to suffer debilitating economic, educational, and health adversities. So I believe that a crime-free bill that specifically targets the African American community is a discriminatory act. It should not happen. It will stop. We can no longer afford to have systemic
I'll give you 10
racism,
seconds, ma'am.
systemic racism, white supremacy in our city and in our nation.
Thank you,
Things
ma'am.
will happen. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Morning, sir.
Good morning, Councilman. How are you this morning?
Morning, sir.
My name is Andre Hill with the Urban Progress Alliance. And, 51 years ago, the city invested in my college education at Florida A&M in business administration and marketing. And it was an investment for me to return to the city to make it a better place. 9 years ago, I returned home after being disenfranchised with the economic system when I left Tampa back in the late 70s. I returned home with a plethora of knowledge, technology, information, and experience on how to develop an economic system so that my people can sustain themselves in a very hostile environment. Currently, the city of Tampa is moving in a direction that will develop a very dark cloud of gentrification and economic exclusion from participating in the prosperity of a city that we have contributed to. I strongly urge the city council to discourage the mayor's office and also the police department in implementing these tactics of displacement of a people that would never had an opportunity, a fair and equitable opportunity in sharing in the economic prosperity of this town. I know business. I ran businesses all over the United States, and I did very well. And I see what is happening still here in my hometown. With every breath in my lungs, with every drop of blood in my vein, I will fight till the end to stop this systemic racism from destroying a people that have contributed so much to Tampa. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning, Connie Burton. I just want to first of all say that as we continue to hopefully strive for a more inclusive democracy, we don't allow a shell game to be played against the people. The fact that we are able to walk back part of the crime-free housing program is an indicator that we recognize that something is not right with that approach. For as long as I've lived, I have witnessed this thing called how do we contain and control certain people of certain cultures and race. And it might be law, but it don't make it right. I believe that when opportunities are presented to communities and individuals within those targeted population, we're able then to see the best in all of our people. For a very, very long time, we watched policies and programs, whether they was from the national level of, say, one strike and you're out, weed and seed, all of these programs have been built off of our backs, but it has not leveraged a better community. It has not made forth for a better city. And so now we have an opportunity. I believe you guys can lead us forward in saying that democracy and inclusion could be better, but not at the expense of people as we watch our communities are constantly gentrified. That is a reality. I don't want to hear nothing about capitalism and developers and this is what the game is calling for. You all are the political leadership of this city, and you have the ability to overturn policies and crises so that everybody will be able to participate fully. So in eliminating the crime-free housing bill, let's just make sure that another mechanism is not put in place that people can not only be evicted, but landlords are then able to make a decision to not renew. We want to make sure that names are not forwarded at no time to landlords to give them that ability to continue to discriminate against our community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mentezna, Tampa, Florida. Want to say huru. Huru means freedom in Swahili. We say we as African people should always be thinking about our freedom. We as African people should always be thinking about what? Reparations. Always be thinking about reparations. We should always be thinking about 621 years of oppression that we have experienced. And you know what it came from? Slavery, black codes, slave trade, Reconstruction, citizens arrest. That sounds familiar? Citizens arrest is dangerous to African people. Jim Crow, convict leasing, war on drugs, war on crime, weed and seed, say no to drugs, gentrification, repeat offender, career criminal, 3 strikes you're out, 1 strikes you out. And now they have what they say is some type of bill to alert people. The state have a bill to alert people in private industry or people in their residence of who committed a crime, who was accused of committing a crime. Okay, not who wasn't convicted of a crime, who was accused of committing a crime. So they trying to treat all African people, all African communities as we're registered sex offenders. Yeah. And they're so nasty about it and so trickery about it. You know, 84% of this city council are white. 2 lawyers, 7 liberals, 1 African. What that tells you? There's no justification in what they're doing, and they won't accept it. They won't accept it for their communities. The 2 attorneys that's in city council, they're not going to accept it for their families, but they want us to accept it, and that have to change. That have to change. We can't blame Orlando Gould. Orlando Gould don't know any better. He don't know. He absolutely positively don't know any better. It's no way an African can sit in city council and never not one time use the word reparations for all what these white folks owe us. So he don't know any better. Most African people don't know any better. But the ones that do, we have to do better for our community, for our children, for our future, and for our ancestors. For 421 years of reparations that they owe us hadn't been paid. Have to do better. And the fact of the matter is, it's so racist, they say they changed it and they're not going to do it. But they say, well, they alert people if it's such things as loud music or maybe a stabbing. Isn't that the dog whistle words? Loud music, a white man just cut a lady up and threw her in the bay. Why not people cutting people up a white collar crime? Come on, man, y'all got to tighten up. African people, we deserve better treatment than that. And we deserve to experience our human rights and not have to be fighting for it all the time. It's enough humanity for everyone to share. Capitalism make you think it's not, but it's enough humanity for everyone to share.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Mr. Daniel. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Good morning, Council.
Morning, sir.
My name is Nathan Hagan. Today we have obviously a big topic there, which I can't speak to directly, but I do think that what I'm going to talk to is a little bit relevant, but maybe a little bit easier. On the agenda today, we have some sidewalk conversation. We have some conversation about mixed use and affordability and affordable housing recommendations. I think these are small parts of today's agenda, but I just want to emphasize that when we talk about these things, we need to look at them through three lenses. One is scalability, one is affordability, and one is equity. We have so many people moving here that prices are getting out of control, and I think we know what communities are being affected the most by that, and we need to really do the right thing to make sure that that doesn't continue. Gentrification is happening. Displacement is just overwhelming. It's incredible what's happening in Tampa right now. So I'll start with sidewalks because that's the easiest. We need sidewalks, period. That's a basic necessity. It's basic infrastructure, but it does raise the cost of housing. I think that's the biggest reason people would argue against it is, it makes housing more expensive. There are so many other things that we need to fix. Things we can fix now, like parking minimums, that have a much bigger impact than sidewalks. Sidewalks are basic transportation infrastructure that every community deserves. More than parking minimums, though, we need to rewrite our entire comprehensive plan, and we need to dramatically overhaul our land development code. These are two essential things for our city, for the people of the city. And that takes it to the next thing, which is mixed use. I'll say the same thing about that. It's a gateway drug to things like density and walkability and placemaking and a better quality of life for people who live there. And it's the beginning of Tampa getting out of this suburban urban development model that we've been stuck in for the last 60 years. But it's not about just making one perfect building or a couple perfect buildings or making one corridor on Florida Avenue really good. We need to really overhaul our entire comprehensive plan and our development code so that we can build mixed use all over the place. But it's not just about mixed use. That's just a tool in our toolbox. It's ultimately very important for our affordable housing to be addressing our comprehensive plan and our land development codes, because right now displacement is happening because it's illegal to build housing in communities that fight very hard to this day to avoid new housing in their communities, which pushes those people who want to live in those neighborhoods into other neighborhoods, which displaces people who can't compete with them. And as you know, has been described, our capitalist society here. So I just want to say, we have to have urgency and scale of solutions that meets the problems we have with displacement, with our affordability crisis we're facing right now. I really hope it's the legacy of this city council that we can get this done in the next 2 years. It's a big lift, but we really, really need to overhaul our comprehensive plan and our land development code so we can build housing to meet the needs of our city. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. How many more we have for public comment, sir?
I have 6 remaining.
Thank you, sir.
Good morning.
Good morning, sir.
Pleased to be here. Thank you very much for this opportunity. My name is Eric Garduno. I am the Government Affairs Director for the Bay Area Apartment Association. I will hit, I guess, a few different items. There's a lot of housing-related issues on the agenda today. Just to reiterate, actually, the point that the gentleman who just spoke, we are running into a housing crisis, and we need more units being built as quickly as possible. That I forwarded some information on that point to everybody, and be happy to talk about that in more detail at some point in the future. But in addition to that, I also wanted to cover a couple other issues. First is agenda number 84, and that's the Tampa Crime-Free Program. You were good to invite us to participate in today's conversation. I'm here to represent the Bay Area Apartment Association for that. And along those lines, I just wanted to provide some basic information that I was able to find from our end. So I was provided a list of the participating communities in the currently participating Tampa Crime-Free Program. There are 42 apartment communities that were listed. I compared that against our membership list, and 21 were listed as members, some of which actually were also Tampa Housing Authority properties that are managed by third parties. So I focused my outreach to this was around Thanksgiving, so there are a lot of people out, but I was able to reach about half the communities and have a real conversation about what their experience had been like. And so a couple of important points that came out of that. One is most of them did not have actual training. They didn't go through a training program, the people I spoke with, the community managers. Two, they either never used the Tampa Crime-Free Program addendum, or if they did, they have since discontinued use of it. Three, they never used that addendum to base any evictions on, to their knowledge. And then lastly, they also, sorry, I've lost my last point. I'll come back to that in a second. On agenda number 86, I just want to note that we did see that Tampa staff had posted a Renters Bill of Rights draft ordinance yesterday. I've had a very brief opportunity to review it. I think in some of our conversations previously, we had noted that it was really important that the ordinance, fall mostly in line with what we've already seen in the county, so that it would be ease of use for our members to actually implement it and understand it. There are two major changes that I think are really beneficial actually at the end of the day for our members to be able to implement it accurately, because they're really address some very confusing elements within the existing county ordinance. So we do support those changes. We also have listed a few other additional changes to you and via email that we'd appreciate your consideration of.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And I will remain here if you have any additional questions.
Good morning.
Morning, sir.
My name is Ernest Johnson. I'm a homeowner and a landowner in this county. And I know the council, the police department, everybody in public government that took an oath to uphold the Constitution of the United States. And under that constitutional guarantee is the right to liberty, pursuit of happiness in life. And it also under that, it says that we are innocent until proven guilty. That's the Constitution you all took oath to. So if Jeffrey Dahmer is innocent until proven guilty, Ted Bundy is innocent until proven guilty, the Margaret Stoneman Douglas killer is innocent until proven guilty, why in the Hillsborough County a person is arrested and his information, the officer take his information and give it out to an apartment complex to execute some kind of punishment and penalty against him? Everybody's innocent until proven guilty. And this alone makes this law it's very dangerous and it's very ugly, and it needs to stop, not just in name but in practice. This city need to compensate all those people that they discriminated against, took away from them their constitutional right to innocent until proven guilty. Those people need to be compensated because they were ran out of their homes, and a lot of them became homeless, and a lot of them became criminals that wasn't really criminals, just had some petty case they were arrested for. The idea of this just going away and going under the rug, it's a habit of the city. And we need to take care of the people that we done offended, people that we done ran out of their homes illegally, and people that was not afforded the opportunity of innocent until proven guilty. And I know that this council have the wherewithal and understanding to do that, and I thank you for the time.
Thank you, sir. Any more speakers?
Yes, sir. Two more.
Thank you, sir. Oh, good morning, Ms. Lockett.
Good morning, good morning. The crime bill, the crime-free multi-housing bill or program or whatever it's called, I guess it's now called SAFE. The program is no longer called crime-free multi-housing. It has now been renamed SAFE with the intent to make everyone safe. I had concerns with when the Tampa Times broke this story, and I still have concerns now. I am really sick and tired of being sick and tired of authorities telling the community one thing with the full intent to do something else or disguising as something else, when in essence it ends up hurting the community. And hurting the community means not just a lot of people, just one. One of the many concerns I have with this program is that it appears, based on the timeline outlined in the article, that there were missteps with implementing, tracking, and outcomes. And instead of just saying, hey, I'm sorry we made mistakes, authorities are trying to justify and cover those mistakes. There's an excuse or reason for each step when in essence the bottom line is that the police department overreached with their authority. I still state that the culture of being able to evict people has been created and will continue to be a problem, especially since I found out recently that you could be evicted from an apartment for just being arrested. Yes, you could be evicted from an apartment from somewhere as a tenant for being arrested. Community, read your lease. Not waiting to see if there's a conviction or not, but for being arrested. And while an apartment complex would not spend their time looking up tenants to see if they were arrested, the police department is helping them with that information. If the apartment complex joins this new program, SAFE, they have full access on a computer with a login number to gain that information. I really want to know two things regarding the crime bill. Has it really reduced crime? And that question was asked by, I think, Councilman Dingfelder, and the report is coming. I really want to know, and not for it to be muddied up with the perception of crime, all those other things they want to include in that. Apartment A, was crime reduced? Apartment B, was crime reduced? A pig with lipstick is still a pig, meaning you can change the name, you can modify the letter, you can say we are not doing this anymore. You can even look sincere when you're saying all of the above, but the culture has already been created. The culture has already been created. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I am Sovereign Despot, Holder in Due Course, King Johnny Bernard Booth. Oh, how are you today within this sovereign American, worldwide sovereign global American kingdom, within this Arabian, indigenous, aboriginal kingdom? Look, I do not need you carrying on with state, because state is wanted throughout the entire globe for continuing on with its slave work. And do not pay these Black Lives Matter none, because they are here to continue to set the sand and continue to feed their falsehood and their propaganda. And do not continue to listen to news stations like Fox, CNN, or BBC if they continue to run monopoly and continue to run around with Nancy Pelosi and Hillary Clinton. Now, Veronica Lynn Booth, be careful, because she is out on the run. I'm talking about the fake Veronica Lynn Booth. Okay, we have a 7-day, 7-night ceremony coming up. You know, the wedding ceremony. Mm-hmm. What's he gonna say? Anyways, we need everyone to be on their well best behavior. Cause aren't you aware, Queen? I was gonna call her great grandmother, huh? Elizabeth is probably already here or coming. Hey, Harry, I think was trying to explain to me. I do was trying to explain it to him. Yeah. Oh, Channel 8 and News Nation continue to seize all of those news networks that will continue to work with state and that will not surrender. All those Black Lives Matter, nothing but lies. Continuing of the falsehood. Continuing of the false government, the agenda, the genocide, all that they call citizens. I call you civilians because you're free, and they still running around calling you citizens. I call you people because you're free. They still running around talking about persons. They're still utilizing the police department in order to make everything
thank you,
look
sir. Thank
false as they always do.
Thank you, sir. Any more speakers, sir?
Final speaker. Thank
Final
you.
speaker.
No more.
We have one more. That was the
No,
final.
no
speaker.
more speakers. I'm sorry.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your help today. Gentlemen, just a point of personal privilege right quick before we move on to the agenda. My name was called out earlier. You know, Webster defines reparations. So I want to make sure I had it right. The making of amends for a wrong one is done by paying money or otherwise helping those who have been wronged. I think this council, since we've been here for going on 2.5 years, I think we've been doing that. I think we've been putting money in communities. I think we've been changing regulations, legislative regulations for the city to right some of the wrongs that have been done, to make sure our citizens are getting their fair share now. We're not there yet, but this council is working to do that. So it may not seem that the needle's moving, but I assure you it is moving. Sometimes it moves slow. But I think we're picking up speed with some of the things that we are doing to give reparations to some of our marginalized communities. And I hope people are recognizing some of the things that we are doing. Some things aren't always fair, always right, but I just want to make sure that people understand what reparations is and what this council is trying to do with the administration to bring a good, wholesome community for everybody and an equal balance. We're not there yet, but this council is trying to get there. So I just want to make that point, gentlemen. Thank you. We'll move on with the agenda. Item number 6.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir. You're recognized, sir.
I believe, did we handle, Madam Clerk, the people online?
I'm sorry. I apologize. We have 2? I'm sorry.
Good morning.
Good morning.
The first speaker is going to be Stephanie Pointer. Stephanie, if you're on the line, please unmute yourself and you have 3 minutes to speak.
Good morning, gentlemen. Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, great. I agree with you completely, Mr. or Chairman Goods. The needle is moving, but the wheels of government move real slow. But I'll get on to my speech. I have 6 items on the docket today. Congratulations to Ms. Rosario. We appreciate all of her hard work in the land use department, and she's a superstar downstairs. Item number 85, mixed use. The lack of clear definition has led to mixed use being declared as little as 0.1%. Cut a penny into 10 pieces and keep one of those pieces. And that's what some people are calling mixed use in this city. There have been many numbers thrown at the amateurs in my group by professionals at the city. It seems like 10% might be around number for this. The staff report is unavailable for me to review in order to see what the experts are saying. But we support mixed use when it's truly mixed use, not just spitting in a bucket. Item number 86, I read through the Renter's Bill of Rights. I agree with it. However, I'd like to see continuity in legislation between the city and the county, as is evidenced by number 82 from Commissioner Overman, working together is efficient and effective, like carpooling. We should be economizing our time and energy by doing some of these things together if possible. Number 80, grass and sod, $473,000. That's $500,000. I'd like to note that you guys just gave a nifty award to some folks who saved water in their own community or in their own property by growing something besides really expensive grass. There are places that grass may be the best option, but what is the city doing besides spending money on it? Number 4, crime-free housing, an imperfect program that needs tweaks to protect our citizens. I can't wait to see something less intrusive to families of those who have made poor choices. I certainly wouldn't want to be accountable for the wrongs of my family members, especially if it meant me losing my home. If anyone has any issues with the crime-free housing that we at THAN can help with, please feel free to reach out with us. We are here to support you. Number 87, affordable housing. The THAN leadership is working on our own channels to support these initiatives. We are here to support anything that means stable, affordable homes for the citizens of Tampa. We're here to represent all citizens, not just homeowners. And last but certainly not least, Carol Ann will give you more detail, or maybe she won't. Build a house, build a sidewalk. I sent all you gentlemen an email yesterday about the invoice for sidewalks submitted by Tampa Bay Builders Association, showing the cost of the sidewalk in proportion to the cost of the home. Less than 1/5
Thank you, Ms. Bourne.
of that piece into 10 pieces.
Thank you, Ms.
Yes,
Bourne.
ma'am.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
The next speaker is going to be Michael Randolph. Michael, if you're on the line, please unmute yourself and you have 3 minutes to speak.
Good morning. I want to wish a happy holiday to everybody, and I pray that we have a better 2022. A quick update. The next Rome Yard meeting is going to be January the 17th, which the community get an opportunity to weigh in as to what's going on. The West Tampa CDC works in tandem with the Rome Street people, and that we give monthly meetings. Our next meeting is going to be on December the 27th, 2021. It's going to be titled Public Health, Public Safety, and Smart Economics, Connecting the Dots. On public health, we're moving towards a holistic and alternative medicine approach, including aromatherapy, sense therapy, including sight, feel, natural herbs and other things, and moving away from how do we create a healthier community. The second part, public safety, focuses on the hardcore. These kids don't go to the Boys and Girls Clubs. They don't go to the YMCA. They are the hardcore. That's who we're focusing on. They're often left behind. We're focused on efforts from New York, Chicago, Philly, and other places. In terms of smart economics, from the Rome Yard perspective, we're using this as an opportunity to attract, excite, educate, and transform the hardcore, moving from the hood to the village. The other thing we're doing, and this is the last thing, because people talk about affordable housing. We're about to unveil our community land trust approach to affordable housing, in which we're partnership with Bay Legal. And we're also putting together what's known as a affordable home think tank, as we begin to look at the different strategies being used around the country for affordable housing. Everybody, have a nice holiday. 2022 is going to be a different year, and I thank everybody and wish you a happy New Year's and happy holiday. Thank you for giving me an opportunity to add my concerns. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Chair, that's going to conclude public comments. Thank you.
Thank you this morning. Thank you. Any requests by the public for reconsideration of any legislative matters? All right, move on. Gentlemen, item number 6.
Good morning, Council. This is Elaine Lund with Historic Preservation. I have some photos to accompany this item this morning. Am I able to share my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
the picture visible for you?
Not yet, you can blow it up for us, please. All right, we have it.
Okay, wonderful. Okay. So this item before you is a historic property ad valorem tax exemption for the building known as the German American Club, which was constructed circa 1909. It's located at 2105 North Nebraska Avenue. This is part of the Historic Property Ad Valorem Tax Exemption Program, which stimulates revitalization and eases the burden of maintaining historic properties. Eligible properties are local landmarks and historic properties in our local historic districts. This particular property is a contributing structure in the local Ybor City Historic District, and it is also located in the Ybor City National Historic Landmark District. It's located at the corner of Nebraska Avenue and East 11th Avenue. The 1920 Sanborn Insurance Company map indicates, shows the building there in blue, indicating that it is a concrete block construction, which you could see was unique to that area at the time. So here you see the west and south sides of the German American Club prior to the recent project. And then this photo shows the after the project. In addition to the rehabilitation of the historic structure, the project included an addition to the north. This is another view looking south along Nebraska Avenue, so you can see the north and west sides of the addition there. And then this is the historically appropriate connector, which separates the old from the new construction. Certain changes were made to the interior to adapt the building, the historic building, to its new use. Here you see the ramp that previously existed for accessibility within the building. And after the project was completed, the first floor interior space was divided into offices, and a lift was installed to replace the ramp. This photo illustrates the design of the new office space, which allowed the volume of the space and the capitals of the interior columns to remain expressed. Here you see the second and third stories of the original historic structure, which was, when it was built, was the theater for the German American Club. The stage was enclosed for prior use, but the proscenium arch remained intact. And here we see the same space after the rehabilitation. This item was approved by the Barrio Latino Commission on September 28, 2021. The application is consistent with the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation and guidelines for rehabilitating historic buildings. The project meets the criteria established by the Department of State, and the improvements equaled or exceeded $10,000. Therefore, staff recommends the approval of this item. I am available for your questions. Thank you.
Any questions for staff? Mr. Dingfellow, you recognized.
Thank you. Thank you, Elaine. Could you go back about 4 or 5 slides where you showed the connection between the old building and the new building? There you go. I've been driving by the project, and when I see all that glass like that, and then over on the corner, I question in my head the historic appropriateness of it. But obviously, you're the expert, you and the rest of your team. So, tell me why that is historically appropriate as opposed to using, similar, solid materials.
Well, this is an approach that is commonly used for additions to significant historic structures. The glass is meant to be less obtrusive. The separation is, therefore the connector is set back away from the front facade of the main building. The addition itself is also set back several feet, so it is not as close to Nebraska Avenue as the primary structure there. With the glass, additionally, you are still able to, if you are viewing it in the correct light without the glare coming back at you from the sun, obviously, you're still able to view the original exterior of the north side of the German American Club as well.
Yeah, I guess I don't know. I guess I'm not really, I need to get better educated on what historically appropriate means as opposed to matching. And I do appreciate the fact
Correct.
I appreciate the fact that it is stepped back and that the new structure is stepped back, and I did notice that. But, I mean, I'd hate to see something like that over what's the next club over there, Charlie?
Centro Turiano.
Centro Storiano. I mean, I'd hate to see a glass modern enclosure like that on something as amazing as the Centro Storiano. But anyway, I don't know. I guess I guess this went in front of the BLC or the ARC or what?
Yes, yes. The in addition to this ad valorem tax exemption application being reviewed and approved by the Barrio Latino Commission, the certificate of appropriateness was as well for the construction. This project, was reviewed not for the ad valorem tax exemption. Is reviewed for its compliance with the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation, which differ from our local guidelines for the local Ybor City Historic District. So there are some certain conventions that are more appropriately applied when you're using that set of standards instead.
All right, maybe you and Dennis can come educate me sometime privately. Thank you.
Maniscalco, questions?
Real quick, in response to Councilman Dingfelder's comments, there's, I've seen this done in other historic buildings around. I know the Texas School Book Depository, Lee Harvey Oswald, they did an addition like this to allow for like a visitor entrance. The facade is maintained original, but once you go around the back to the 6th floor museum, it's something like that. So, and that's not the only structure. There are other historic structures where they maintain the original brick facade in many cases, but they'll do some kind of glass or some kind of type of exterior metal addition where, I think it fits, in my opinion, but this isn't the only time that I've seen it done. So.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Actually, come to think of it, we did something like that over at Fire Station, the old fire station that's now the Fire Museum.
Exactly, that's another example.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Anyone else? Anyone in the public to speak on this item? Anyone ready to speak on this item, Madam Clerk?
That's first reading.
First reading, okay. All right. Mr. Vieira, could you take item number 6?
My pleasure, Mr. Chair. I move an ordinance being presented for first reading consideration, an ordinance approving an historic preservation property tax exemption application relative to the restoration, renovation, or rehabilitation of certain property owned by the German American Tampa Holdings, or strike that, owned by German American Tampa Holdings LLC, located at 2105 North Nebraska, Tampa, Florida, Ybor Historic District, based upon certain findings, providing for notice to the property appraiser of Hillsborough County, providing for severability, providing for repeal of all ordinances in conflict, providing an effective date.
Mr. Vieira has moved it. Mr. Miranda has seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Roll call vote. I'm sorry. Roll call.
Citro,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
Dingfelder, Carlson,
Yes.
Maniscalco, Vieira, and Goose.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously, with second reading and adoption will be held on January 13th, 2022 at 9:30 a.m.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Clerk. All right, we'll get the consent docket. Mr. Citro's up first. Public Safety Committee, you go through items number 7 through 22, excluding number 10, sir.
I will say that. Thank you, Mr. Chair. I move items number 7 through 22 sans, item 10 and 20.
Second by Mr. Maniscalco. Roll call, please.
Miranda,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Maniscalco, Vieira,
Yes.
Citro,
Yes.
and Goose.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Maniscalco, Parks and Rec, number 23 through 27, sir.
I'd like to move items number 23 through 27.
Second.
Thank you.
Second by Mr. Miranda. Roll call.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Maniscalco, Vieira,
Yes.
Citro,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
and Goose.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
All right, Public Works, Mr. Dingfelder, items 28 through 43, sir.
Mr. Chair, I need to recuse myself on number 34, please.
All right,
So
sir.
could we vote on the rest of them? And then
All right.
Mr. Chairman, I'll move items 28 through 33, as well as
Second.
Second by Mr. Randall. Roll call.
Carlson,
Yes.
Maniscalco, Viera,
Yes.
Citro,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
and Goods.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
And Mr. Chair,
I'm sorry, go ahead, Mr.
Mr. Chair, if I could, I need to disclose, the company with which I'm retained has a client that has an interest in this matter, number 34, so I'll recuse myself.
All right.
Okay, and I will move item 34 and recognize Mr. Carlson's abstention.
All right, been seconded by Mr. Miranda. Roll call.
Viera,
Yes.
Citro,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Maniscalco, and Goods.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously with Carlson abstaining.
All right. Finance Committee, Mr. Miranda, item number 44.
Chairman, I move all of mine, number 44.
Second.
Second by Mr. Citro. Roll call.
Maniscalco, Viera,
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Dingfelder, Carlson,
Yes.
and Goods.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
All right, Mr. Carlson's back. Could you move items 45 through 63, Building and Zoning Committee?
Yes, sir, move items 45 through 63.
Second.
Second by Mr. Miranda. Roll call.
Viera,
Yes.
Citro,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Maniscalco, and Goods.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
Mr. Viera, Transportation Committee, items 64 to 68.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chair, I'm proud to move, or not necessarily proud to move, I'm glad to move items 64 through 68.
Second.
Second by Mr. Miranda. Roll call.
Citro,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Maniscalco, Viera,
Yes.
and Goods.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
All right, item number 69, petition for review, hearing scheduled
Sure.
March 3rd.
Move the item for March 3rd of 2022 at 1:30. And move item 70 for review hearing scheduled March 3rd again at 2022 at 1:30. Both of them, same time, same date.
All right, Mr. Miranda's moved it, Mr. Citro seconded it. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted. You want a roll call with that, Mr. Shelby? Was your
That's
hand?
fine, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we're good, all right. Making sure.
Before you go to the public hearings, I'd like to ask council to consider that walk-on, based on the memorandum from Carl Brody requesting a resolution setting a public hearing on December 9th at 5:01 PM regarding the Community Development Block Grant Program, et cetera. That's
All right,
provided on the
let's
addendum.
take that right now, then. Mr. Miranda, you move that, sir?
Yes, sir.
Second by Mr. Citro. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
If we could do a roll call
All
on
right.
that, just because it involves.
All right, yes, sir. Mr. Shelby prefers a roll call on that.
Maniscalco, Viera, Citro,
Yes.
Miranda,
Yes.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
and Goods.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
Thank you, council.
All right. If I can get someone to open up all the hearings, we can run through this.
Move.
Mr.
Second.
All right, got Mr. Citro, second by Mr. Carlson. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted. We're open. Item number 71.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman, that's non-quasi judicial.
Yes, now quasi, item 71.
Morning, Chair.
Morning, sir.
Council.
Morning.
Vic Vite, Director of the Mobility Department, here to address item 71. This is the second hearing being presented to council on an ordinance relating to sidewalk construction and the sidewalk trust fund. Specifically, Chapter 22, Streets and Sidewalks, Section 103 of that code is being modified and presented to you. Between the first and second readings, we did make a change and a recommendation to council, which was documented in a memo submitted. The specific nature of that change is modification to the language and elimination of the reference to a half-mile distance from schools. We feel that that language modification and the ordinance as presented to you still meets the spirit of what council desired and expressed at the first hearing. And our highest priority remains sidewalks adjacent to schools. So we will continue to support that with the proposed ordinance. Also, I would like to add that there were a couple of items that were discussed relating to this proposed ordinance. One about protected trees and whether they should be included within the ordinance or not. And staff position on this matter is we recommend that protected trees not be included in this ordinance as proposed, primarily because the definition of a protected tree is so broad that while it is, of course, the city's desire to keep these protected trees, there are ways to mitigate for it as well. We run, through this with projects that we do for sidewalks, roadways, and other things as well. Having protected tree language for exemptions would effectively render this ordinance less effective because they're protected trees and the broad nature of their definition across the board. So with that, we're available for any questions. We have Patrick Perez from the legal department as well, and we'll be happy to address them.
All right, we will do that. I know we had some no-getters on the last time, so I know Mr. Miranda will go with you first, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. You mentioned trees. On one side, we're trying to do what we can to have the sidewalks. On the other side, we're doing what we can to have the trees. However, the way you spoke, you're talking about that the trees are somewhat ambiguous because it doesn't say enough about the tree, I guess, on the sidewalk. So the trees have two areas that we look at when there's a development of some sort on some lot that has to be changed. Either the size of the tree, from is it 24 inch, 36 inch, 2 inch, whatever, and then the life of the tree. Those are the two things that we do. So are you saying to this council that the city has no ability to tell us the size of the tree and the age of the tree and the livability of the tree? I'm asking this because you vote one way, then the tree people are going to be upset. You vote the other way, and then the sidewalk people are going to be upset. So I want to make a happy medium somewhere where there's connectivity between the two people. Maybe they all get upset. So what I'm trying to do is understand about the tree size, because I remember Mr. Chirora, when he was a council member, put that on, and it was very helpful, and he's I call it the individual who saved the trees and the canopy. I think Tampa's got one of the largest tree canopies in the United States, and that's what I want to hear. And the sidewalk also, I heard some discussion in first reading where it was said that if there is a ditch, and there is no way of putting that sidewalk there, that either we take the property on the other side of the ditch to put a sidewalk, something to that effect. I'm not saying that's perfect. Or if that person has a ditch and he or she or they cannot put a sidewalk in, that they still have to pay money into the sidewalk fund. And I'd like those answered.
Sure. Thank you, Councilman. I'll let Abby address the trees issue, and then we can certainly speak to the next point.
Thank you, Vic. Good morning, Council. Abby Feely, Director of Development and Growth Management for the city. Just to take a quick step back on this, you remember the sidewalk changes that we're looking at today are really to clean up and change the exemption language, that language where people were exempting out of providing the sidewalk and then not paying the fee in lieu. So the language before you corrects that. It does still allow exemptions for grand trees. The language that was being proposed was not only grand trees, but protected trees. Well, protected trees range in size from 2 or 3 inches up to what then becomes a grand status. When you look at including those, something that has not been included in the past, it would open up a whole nother opportunity for exemption that at this time we are not prepared to support, as we've been able to very creatively in some cases work around those protected trees that are in the right of way and still provide the sidewalk, which is really our goal. And by saying a 2-inch tree or a protected tree would allow you not to construct the sidewalk, we're not in a position this morning, Vic and I had an extensive conversation about this. We're not in a position to be able to change the language that's before you this morning and support this at this time without looking at it. One item we did discuss was a potential, I think we shared with you at the last hearing that we're now loading this in a different way in Acela and tracking this more closely. So we would be able to potentially report back to you in our annual report to say it would have impacted X number or Y number, but I don't know that we've had any open discussion with you or with others about opening that exemption up to any and all protected trees. It just does not feel like it's going in the spirit of the direction that this council was headed.
Let me say before we go any further, I have not met with anyone in the building association, any developer, or anyone meeting representing any developer at all, or anyone on the sidewalks, or anyone with a tree ordinance regarding this. But I'm sure what you said, Abby, I agree that you are a fantastic individual who knows her job better than anyone else that I know of anyway. But however, just to isolate 2-inch and 4-inch, that's not a protected tree in my mind. A protected tree is the city has to set a standard whether it's either 12-inch or 24-inch or 18 inches. But we avoided that because we knew that if you did do that, you're going to run into some problems. And let me tell you the biggest problem we're going to have. And I'm only going to speak about West Tampa because it's the area that I know best, although I travel the city very, very much so. I go home even a different way. Every day I go work, but somehow there's only 4 or 5 ways I can get from here to my house. I travel that 4 or 5 ways often. When you do that, you realize, especially in the evenings, after 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock, that what we have is like spaghetti and meat sauce with crab and more stuff into it that you don't know if it's spaghetti or meat sauce. What I'm trying to say objectively is this. If you go and tour the city, especially West Tampa, I'm going to speak about the whole city, however, and you see that right now, when all this came about, it was very easy because you had a house, you had a garage, and like to mix Mr. Dinkfelder's request, you had a porch. Why did you have all that? Well, you had that because you didn't need much. You only had one car, a wife, a husband, a couple of kids. So you only needed one car. But as society improved and jobs availability and education came by, as the kids grew older, now you have husband and wife and 3 kids and 4 cars. And I'm not trying to be symptomatic about the whole thing. So when you see all that, guess what happens in the evening? And I had a couple of phone calls, and I'll bring them here if you'd like to speak on it. You have a sidewalk that you can't use because people park their cars on top of the sidewalk. And who's going to be responsible for handing out the tickets? Because if you have an ordinance that people, and rightly so, what are you going to create by passing that ordinance? Has anybody ever given any thought to that at all? And I'm not here to try to submarine this ordinance. I'm telling you the facts. And the facts are that I can prove it to you right now or tomorrow, anytime you want, all of us, that if you tour the city, because the abundance of people that are going, and some of these lots that have the 5,000 square foot but are not depth, and you put the sidewalk at 20 feet instead of 25 feet, and you put the driveway up and then the sidewalk, what happens once you put a car in, the second car is there. You have a 2-car garage and you got 4 cars. You got 2 cars in the garage and 2 cars blocking the sidewalk. And any new home, or most of them I should say, that are built today have that. So we're creating something, and how are we going to fix it? Because I don't want court enforcement later on that says, well, you all passed the law, why should we ticket the people? Not that they're going to say that, but subconsciously the public that might get a ticket may not ever get a ticket because we won't enforce it. When government wants to do something, they do it. When they want to step back, they don't even touch it because they're afraid of it politically. So we have ramifications that we've never looked at, and I can justify everything that I'm saying today by just taking a break and going looking at it. It's there after 6 o'clock in the evening, not only in West Tampa, but throughout the city. When kids stay home because why? They can't afford to rent an apartment, and I understand that. Then you have an extra car there. When we build something, we usually waive the parking at some degree. So we ourselves are creating it, not you, Abby. We are the ones that are passing it. So what are we going to tell court enforcement when this ordinance passes? To give tickets or to close their eyes? That's a question I'm asking this government. It's there. It's true. That's all I'm saying, Abby. Thank you very much.
Mr. Dingfelder, you recognize.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Miranda and Abby. So I just wanted to clarify one or two things. Abby, you used the word exemption when you talked about this issue about grand tree or protected tree. And I don't think you meant completely exemption. Where the issue of grand tree comes up is in paren C on the second page. And specifically, these are the factors that the transportation manager, perhaps Vic or somebody he designates, uses to determine whether or not that sidewalk has to be built in front of that new home. It's not all or nothing, and there is a catch-all in C4 that right below Grand Tree that says whether or not any other unique or peculiar circumstances exist. So if and I see, for the record, I see nodding heads from Vic and Abby, which is always good to see. But so in other words, if the developer can show to Vic or his team or Abby or whoever else is involved that they've got a severe problem, whether or not it's a tree or some other issue, a ditch or that sort of thing, then they go to the department and they plead their case. And I think that's a reasonable way to approach this. But then it does not exempt them from paying. Is that correct? Who's our city attorney there? I want a nodding head from the city attorney as well. Okay, I got a third nodding head. It does not exempt them from paying. It merely exempts them from putting the sidewalk on that particular property during that construction. For whatever reason, it wasn't practical there, but they still got to contribute. And they contribute for the common good. They contribute for the common good so that Vic can then take that money and build sidewalks where they need to go. All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted to clarify that. And thank you for the nodding heads.
All right. You kind of led into the point that I want to get to, that I want Vic to be able to explain publicly, because that was my main concern last time. It's the dollars and cents. I think we had a conversation about that, Vic. That was my major concern, making sure that money, those folks are actually, that money's actually going into the fund. There's an accountability for the fund of where sidewalks are being built, so people can know where that money's been spent, how much money's in that account. Because again, I think we've dropped the ball on a lot of different accounts that we don't have a tally on. So I just want to make sure that you're assuring us, and to the general public, who can't read this right now, that how is this going to be tracked, how we're going to make sure that people are paying into the fund before they get permits or whatever, to make sure there's an accountability mechanism in place.
Thank you, Chair. And I'll address this in multiple parts. One is absolutely accountability is important. That's why the proposed ordinance provides for annual reporting. That annual reporting could have any level of detail that you would want, but it will include how much was collected in which area and how much sidewalk was installed. The other change at the request and pleasure of council that we have made is remove the maintenance aspect from the in lieu fee, meaning we will only use the in lieu fee and the sidewalk trust fund to build new sidewalk going forward. This creates other challenges for us on maintenance, but we will address those. But that's the other part of it. And the third part is, in working closely with Abby's team, we will make sure that there are features in Accela that don't exist today that enable this site-by-site tracking of the sidewalk trust fund and associated in lieu fee, so that not only we can report it, but we can also use that data to feed into our prioritization process, just as gaps and other things. So we take this seriously, and we have considered that in the ordinance and our preparation work in the background to make sure that we will be accountable to council and the community on this.
I think Mr. Dingfellow was first, I'll get you Mr. Rand.
Thank you,
Mr.
Mike.
Dingfellow,
Then
recognized.
a quick question on the tracking, and I point to paren H, which says the Mobility Department shall give an annual report to City Council regarding the city's sidewalk program and the Sidewalk Trust Fund. And Mr. Bide's reports are always very thorough and informative. But Vic, I want to make sure that the report includes that you track, if possible, and if not, tell me why. If possible, you track any waivers granted for affordable housing, which is, affordable housing is actually a full-blown waiver, and I believe that's appropriate. Affordable single-family housing. And then secondly, are you going to track that impracticability, perhaps is the word, of certain projects? So in other words, you'll come and tell us X number of projects were provided that the developers said were impractical, and you agreed with or disagreed with, or that sort of thing. I think that would be helpful, so we know what sort of thorough review that you and your staff are giving these questions.
Yes, so, and I will let Abby jump in if needed, but based on our discussions, that should not be a problem. We should be able to track all of the requests, how many of which had exemptions or extenuating circumstances, how many were waivers associated with affordable housing, and how much sidewalk in lieu fund was actually collected with the balance of those that was levied.
Thank you, Vic. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Rand, you're recognized, sir.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. And if you want to second bite, then I'm finished like everyone else that has a second bite. There's three things that I look at. First of all, the tree fund has never been balanced that I know of. So we're asking for another fund to be balanced. And you can check my record if you like. The sidewalk, when it was passed last time, and maybe I'm not 100% correct on this, money for the sidewalk was used for repair. And I believe that the ordinance, when I was here and passed it, it didn't have repair in it. Maybe incorrect, because I'm going by memory. So please verify that. Was the sidewalk ordinance passed have any repairs in it, or that the department took it upon themselves to fix the sidewalk with sidewalk money?
I'll let Patrick address that.
Good morning, Council. Patrick Perez, Assistant City Attorney. Yes, Councilman Miranda, the current sidewalk ordinance states that the trust fund money can be used for new and repairs of sidewalks.
Okay, what
So
about the
this
tree fund?
amendment-
Is it balanced? Do you know if it's balanced out? Because it wasn't balanced last time I looked at it.
I'm sorry?
The tree fund, I'm comparing it to setting up another fund, and then the fund where it says it's collected, if the fee is collected, and then the city should be obligated to construct a sidewalk within 6 years period of time or refund the money. How's that going to be organized, and who's going to handle that, and who's going to oversee that? I need more information on that, because I trust no government, including my own.
I'm sorry, I can't speak to that. I know currently that there is no expenditure date in the sidewalk ordinance for the funds.
Well, there
And I can't speak. to the
There is
trust
no
fund.
date? Okay. So there's a proposal, I guess, from somebody, there's a period of time that somebody should get the money back if they're not. And the third one, and I want to present the sidewalk, I'm not a conservative or liberal. I'm a realist, I think myself as. So what I'm looking at is, how in the world are we going to keep up somebody who has a house that's got a ditch in front of their house, that's never, ever going to have that block completed because that money's going to somebody else, or he or she don't even know. To me, that's a taking of your money. To me, that's irresponsible to have it on a contract basis with yourself, that your money is paying for somebody else. Do I buy somebody else's car? And let's face facts, this is not about an education. Everybody should have an education. In fact, when you look at your tax bill, you'll find your tax bill in two areas, in city and local, state and local. You pay almost twice the amount you pay the city of Tampa and Hillsborough County. And you know what? I'm fine with that, because I believe education should be for everyone. Those that don't have, those that do have. But when it comes to taking of a property, and that's what we're doing, you're telling that individual, you pay whether you like it or not, or if not, you don't build in the city of Tampa. And that's another item that bothers me. I'm not against building sidewalks. I'm against the way this is constructed, when I know in the past, the tree fund was set up, and a year or two later, we checked it, and it never balanced. And we should have a report coming up soon, because I believe I made a motion sometime back for a period of time. They have to bring the report in. So I'm a little skeptical about what's happening in setting up another authority that's going to remain, you know, councils change, and it will change again in 2023. And that council is going to have much more responsibilities than this, because all those contracts for sporting events come due. So it is what it is, and I just want to vote for it, but I need something about the trees, what size, not arbitrary and capricious. You don't like the tree, I'm going to take it out. About taking of somebody's money without that individual having that money that he's paying for somebody else and not for itself on his property. That has to be addressed. If not, I'm not in, because I don't take anybody's money to give it away to somebody else. That's not the way America was built. So these are the things that I look at, and it may be justifiable legally, but it's not justifiable in my heart. That's all I can tell you, sir. So I'm not being argumentative. I hope I'm not taking that as an argument, because I'm not being argumentative, but I just want to make sure that these things are done properly, that there is a system in place. Sidewalk monies go in, done somewhere else. Somebody, you have a 4 miles or 2 miles or 1 block without a sidewalk, and that individual, why built it there? I agree with that. Build it somewhere else. But when you take property, and because of a deformity in the land, let's put it that way, and you're going to put that money to somebody else's property, I have a problem with that. And if I ever go to court, I'm not going to have the problem with that. You're going to have the problem with that. Because that, to me, is just a taking without giving that homeowner, whoever that homeowner is, the right to have a sidewalk. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
All right, it's 11:30 already, and we got a packed house. I'll take a few more comments, make them brief and short, and so we can bring this on a landing and decide what we're going to do. Now, before I get to Mr. Vieira and recognize him, I see the city attorney's office. Are we able to answer any of Mr. Randall's questions? Because there will be a vote today on this. So can we answer his questions? Vic, you're recognized.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. So a couple of things. One is the sidewalk will be built in right of way. So it's not private property. It is for a public good, and that is the intent of the ordinance. So I hope that addresses the councilman's question, that the intent is either to contribute or build a sidewalk. If it's not feasible in any one property, it does not mean that we abandon the public good. It does mean that we find a more viable place for it within that area to implement walkability and provide for that walkability for the entire neighborhood. And because it's in the right of way, it is a public good.
All right, Mr. Vieira, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Just wanted to speak on my thoughts overall in this ordinance. I'm prepared to support it. I think, and it's funny what Vic just said right now on, for the public good. The way I look at something like this is a regulation for the greater good and something that everybody benefits from, including those who will ultimately pay into it, because having sidewalks, and by the way, everybody, all 7 of us agree on this. This is just a debate on the means to that end, but talking about the end states that sidewalks are for the greater good. I don't think anybody disagrees with that. Councilman Miranda, our friend, makes a lot of pivotal and important points that I think should be considered, and I respect that. I also respect being the one sometimes on issues, and I respect that 110%. But I'm respectfully prepared to support this today. Like all of us, and again, this is a 7-0 sentiment. We talk to our constituents and how they have sidewalk needs. I made a motion a couple of weeks ago on an area in North Tampa next to a veteran's home by the name of Liberty Manor. Mr. William Porth was out there with me a couple weeks ago, disabled veterans who need a sidewalk. Again, 7-0 sentiment. The issue is, how do we get there? But this is a need. Will this ordinance take care of everything? Absolutely not. It is a tool in the toolbox to be used on many, many different issues here, but a tool that I think is reasonable and I support. And lastly, you know, we talk about a lot of communities that feel that they've been ignored. We hear a lot from our friends, for example, south of Gandy. You know, these are things that we can do, right, to have the city and our regulatory system to put skin in the game, so to speak, to help out these neighborhoods throughout all of our city. So I'm prepared to support this tool in the toolbox here today, and I thank Councilman Dingfelder for bringing this forward, sir, and for everybody's advocacy on sidewalks. Thank you very much.
All right, Mr. Goss, recognized.
Yeah, just quickly, I think this is a public safety issue, and we need to approve it. I'm happy to support it and also make a motion or second it if we need. But we have too many deaths and accidents and near accidents of people walking down streets without sidewalks. And especially at night, especially this time of year when it gets dark early, it's incredibly dangerous for people to walk in any part of the city. One of the other complaints we hear is people speeding through neighborhoods, especially cutting through to different streets. And the public is demanding this. I appreciate staff meeting with all the different interested parties. I know you all met with builders, developers, sidewalk advocates, neighborhood leaders, and others. And nobody's going to be 100% happy with any solution. In this case, everybody's a little bit unhappy, but this is something we can do to move forward. And then, as we all know, this fixes a very small part of the problem, and we need to find more funding to build more sidewalks in more places. We've all supported more sidewalks throughout the city, especially sidewalks to and from schools. We need to find funding to do it ASAP. Thank you.
Anyone else before I go to public comment? All right. Anyone on the second floor to speak on this item? Item number 71.
Good morning, members of council. My name is Jennifer Motzinger, and I'm the Executive Vice President for the Tampa Bay Builders Association. I do wish that I was coming before you today to say that I was 100% in support of this ordinance, but there are two things that I want to point out that you may not have considered do have unintended consequences. The language related to protected trees is eliminated, but that eliminates consideration that staff would be given to allow that protected tree to be protected and the sidewalk not be constructed and pay the in lieu fee. So as it reads, that means that my people and homeowners are just going to be able to plow through those protected trees and put in sidewalks. So that may not be highlighted for you today, but I guarantee as this ordinance moves forward, if it's passed as written, that is exactly what is going to happen. Please understand that. The other thing that I want to mention is, you know, I do business all over the region, and one of the unintended consequences I have seen is we support user-based fees, we support impact fees, we support builder-related fees, permitting fees. We build up big reserves, and that money is not spent for its intended use. So we've been very consistent in what we've requested and just make sure that the money is spent. Yes, a report is nice, but it doesn't mandate that the money is spent in a reasonable amount of time. I don't think that's too much to ask. Just enumerate that, the way that we're going to advocate for trees, any fees that are charged by the industry or charged from the industry and paid to the city, just make sure that those monies are being utilized for its intended consequences, or its intended uses, I should say. That's all we're asking for. Thank you very much for your time.
Mr. McLean?
Good morning, council. I sent an email to all of you earlier, and basically enumerates the two positions that Jennifer just outlined. And the problem is that if you pay for a service, or you pay for in lieu of a service, you need to track where that money's going and how it's being spent. it doesn't, I don't understand why there's a pushback and this deletion of a protected tree. That just enumerates what part of the criteria is to review. You're still going to have to pay the fee. The staff still has to review your application and determine whether or not it's warranted or not. And then on the last page of the proposed ordinance that we submitted to you, what we took was the exact language that is contained in other parts of the city code regarding mobility fees, and we inserted it here so that you could track the money. If you collect a fee, you have to show where it's going. You can't say, okay, we're going to give you a report, and the report is going to tell you that, in a general sense, where we think where we spent the money. But this provision says, and again, it mimics exactly what's in other portions of the city code. And it says within 6 years, if you don't spend the money in that area for that purpose that you've collected that money for, then you have to refund it back to that property owner. The last thing I was going to mention is you're talking about infill housing, 1 or 2 homes. When you hit 3 homes that are contiguous, then you're kicked into subdivision review. There aren't any waivers in a subdivision for sidewalks. So these are really small builders, infill building and housing. And we think, first of all, that the tree provision that was just recently stricken from the code needs to be reinserted. And then the language regarding, you collected a fee, show where it's going, and if you don't spend that money within 6 years, that's fine. But, it's not just this administration. This code is going to be here for a while. And, we worked on the tree code for over 2 years. And there was a great debate about, grand trees and protected trees, and I can't imagine why all of a sudden the protected tree is being removed. We're talking about 2 different things here. Either we believe that the tree code was viable and it should be protected, or we don't. And then the second thing is accountability. We went through this with the tree trust fund, where the funds couldn't be accounted for. There was no way of tracking where the money was going, and we're saying, okay, let's put the same language that you already have in the code, let's put it in here to the tree in the sidewalk code so that you track it. There's no discussion about whether or not it was there or not, and how to adjust for those fees. So,
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Anyone else on the second floor speak on this item?
No more speakers in this one, on this number.
Vic,
Chair, thank you.
got a question
So-
for you. I'm not too concerned because you've already let Mr. Miranda know a reference to the right-of-way, public versus private. My concern is again, the money, and I can see if people put money into a fund, when is it gonna be utilized? How fast we're gonna get it out? I mean, those are legitimate questions. So, if you can tell me, in public, we're putting money, people putting money into it, developers putting money into the sidewalks. How long is it gonna take to spend that money? Is, there's a time limit, or how we gonna spend the money?
Sure. I'll be happy to address that, Chair, and also a couple of the other points that were made in the comments. So, one, the ordinance specifically says that these funds will only be used for new sidewalks. The other is not just 6 years, we're going to be reporting every single year to council on how these funds are being spent and where. And finally, our sidewalk needs are so vast that we will be working on these as these funds come in to implement sidewalks. This will be documented in the reporting. So the reporting is already annual, not 6 or 10 years. Having said that, it is council's pleasure, and whatever time period, 6 years is reasonable, we can certainly construct and use those funds within that 6 years. I don't see an issue with that at all. Also, going back to the protected trees, the city has a technical manual for landscaping and trees. Anytime we build sidewalks, we have to follow that manual. So all we're saying is we will be following that manual. Due consideration for protected trees will be given as in when we construct these sidewalks. And that is one of the reasons why we're keeping the grand trees in there, but the protected trees, we already have a mechanism for it. It's just having that exemption in there really conflates the issue and creates a lot more loopholes. And the whole purpose of this ordinance is to simplify and remove loopholes.
All right, let's go ahead and continue with the public comment to the phone so we can go ahead and bring it in for a landing. How many we have on the phone?
3 register and they are on. They just need to turn on their cameras.
All right. One, I see 2, no face.
Tamily. We don't need a face.
Yeah, okay.
Because it's
Okay,
not
just
class
for
A.
All right. Let's go, Miss Emily Hinsdale.
Good morning.
Morning.
My name is Emily Hinsdale. Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. My name is Emily Hinsdale. I'm a Tampa resident and a Walk Bike Tampa board member. Most of you have been listening to me talk about the sidewalk code amendments that you will be asked to vote on today for years. I believe we have covered all of the facts, though dispelling misinformation and half-truths has been harder. So today I'll talk instead about why I got involved in this unbelievably drawn-out process in the first place. I am passionate about people having a safe place to walk, to businesses, to work, to school. I'm not a lobbyist paid to speak for pedestrians. I am not a professional advocate paid to harangue you about road safety. I am donating my time to this cause because I truly believe it will give every Tampa resident a chance to move more safely through our wonderful city. I am passionate about getting more sidewalks in our city because I am passionate about making sure the most vulnerable, the most at-risk members of our community are able to move around our city without fearing for their lives. I am thinking about my neighbor Lola, who will be 100 years next month, trying to wheel her walker through the traffic on our sidewalkless streets. I am thinking about my friend Sandy, who had to move because in her wheelchair, she could barely leave her house when she lived in an area without sidewalks. I'm thinking about my friend Molly, with 3 kids under the age of 5, pushing her stroller around cars trying to get to preschool or on the way to the neighborhood park. And of course, I am thinking about my own children, Clara and Rose, and the thousands of Tampa children who walk to school in the street every day while several hundred cars zoom around them. There's no question from anyone, city staff, sidewalk opponents, builders, homeowners, voters, this code change will result in more sidewalks in Tampa. The only question is whether you will be part of the solution or be someone who chooses to keep Tampa unsafe. Traffic fatalities in Tampa this year are the highest in over a decade. If you, as our elected representatives, are not actively working to change that, you are allowing it to happen. Please vote for more sidewalks in Tampa by supporting this code change. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Carol Ann Bennett? We can't hear you. We can't hear you. Try it again.
Hi, my name is Carol Ann Bennett. I am the Vice President of FAN. Item 71 is simple. If you build a house, build a sidewalk. None of the sidewalk problems we currently have will be fixed by keeping this loophole. The city's plan for where they will build sidewalks is a completely separate issue. Many of the negative arguments I've heard are simply wrong. Number one, utility poles are not always installed on the property line. They are somewhere on the right-of-way, but the utility pole is not a property line marker. The city must get a survey to find the property line. That's one reason it costs the city more to install sidewalks. Number two, homeowners are not going to be required to pay $5,000 to TECO for moving a utility pole. Number three, the driveway width is always deducted when calculating the in lieu of fee. It's in the code. A 50-foot lot is charged for a maximum of 32 feet. Number four, builders do not pass the sidewalk costs on to the home buyer. Builders charge market rate. They do not lower the price if they don't build a sidewalk. They increase profit. If builders could pass all costs on to homeowners, their businesses would never flounder. Think about what a sidewalk opponent is really saying. They are saying we can only have sidewalks if they are provided by Santa Claus or the Tooth Fairy. Because we can't have sidewalks if it costs the builders any money, or if it costs the home buyers any money, or if it costs the taxpayers any money. As far as they're concerned, the only acceptable sidewalks are free sidewalks. Tampa's pedestrian death and injury rate is a black eye on this city. If the goal is to kill and maim our people at the highest rate in the country, then keep doing things the same way. We have obviously perfected the formula for being successful at it. Our citizens are not being mowed down on our sidewalks. FAN members have discussed the shameful lack of sidewalks in this city and the need to close the sidewalk loophole and increase the budget for sidewalks. FAN members voted unanimously to officially support the motion before you today, and they urge council to just say yes to sidewalks. Thank you for your support.
Thank you. Next speaker, Stephanie Pointer. Unmute yourself. Try it again, Ms. Pointer. We can hear you.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, that's all that counts. Okay, I didn't know I was getting a two for today. I'm excited. Bottom line is I want you guys to understand that the Tampa Bay Builders Association submitted a document that said it cost $1,979 for 60 feet of sidewalk for a particular property at 2309 North Elko. I mean, they submitted it, so I read it, and it said 60 feet. Well, I look, and the lot is 60 feet wide, but by code, the driveway has to be 18 feet. So if we subtract that 30% from there, we go back to, oh, wait, it only costs about $1,385 to put the sidewalk in, which is on point with what Councilman Dingfelder said last week. You know, bottom line is that's, strangely enough, the same as that 1/10 of a penny. Again, please, for the love of God, let's put some sidewalks in. I see kids every single day, elementary school kids, walking to and from school where there are no sidewalks. And no, the sidewalks don't need to be 20 feet from the street. As a matter of fact, I just drove down Interbay a few minutes ago, and the sidewalks on Interbay, when we walked Interbay 2 weeks ago with city staff for mobility, they go from abutting the street all the way back to the right of way at 20 feet. So they move along with the street and make it plausible for anybody to walk down the north side of Interbay. So, I mean, yes, it's not perfect, but this is the first step in fixing the problem. The things in the past, the pictures that have been put up there, those are pictures from the past. It's time to move forward and embrace the future. And trees are not going to stop it. You just move them on. You move on around them. But I mean, it's reality. Y'all have a good day. Thank you.
Thank you, Steph. Any more speakers? All right. All hearts and minds clear. Item number 71. Anything else, Vic or Abby? All right, Mr. Maniscalco.
Do we need a motion to close?
Yes, please. Got a question before you close.
Yes, sir.
So, Vic, you guys have recommended, and I guess you've provided a substitute ordinance that eliminates the reference to schools, the half-mile circle around schools. Unfortunately, I didn't hear the sidewalk stompers or the other ladies who've been so supportive on the sidewalk changes speak to that particular change. Mr. Citro, I think you were pushing real hard for that particular provision. I'm curious if you have any thoughts on that before we vote on the amended ordinance. And Vic, a last question to you was, I think in our offline discussions, you made reference to the fact that you had spoken to some of the sidewalk advocates about removing that clause.
Yes, sir. We've been coordinating with a lot of stakeholders, including sidewalk advocates.
And on that particular item of removing the reference to the schools?
Yes, sir.
Okay, and what's the specific impact of removing that clause?
We don't anticipate any major impact from it because it still sticks to the principle that if you're building a home, you're either building a sidewalk or paying into the sidewalk trust fund. And as far as the priority of being proximate to a school, it aligns perfectly with our priorities where schools are the highest priority anyways. And so we feel that the simplified ordinance that's been presented to council for consideration meets all of the strategic and tactical goals that we had set forth, understanding and acknowledging that no one piece of ordinance or rule is perfect, especially when it comes to the right-of-way, which is a complex environment.
Okay. Mr. Citro, was there anything you wanted to speak to since that was your provision? Are you good with it, not good with it?
My turn?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Councilman Dingfelder. I've been working very, very hard with our Senator Cruz and with our Congresswoman Kathy Castor to receive some sort of funding from both the federal government and our state government concerning sidewalks surrounding schools. Yes, I am going to forego asking for that mile to the schools, as I found that type of request is redundant to what we already have and are asking for. So if you're asking me to forego the mile that I requested, yes, I am going to forego again, because there is a redundancy in that and with the ordinance that we're requesting.
Thank you for the clarification.
I think Mr. Maniscalco is going to move to close.
Move to close.
Second by Mr. Carlson, all in favor?
Before we
Sorry,
close,
Mr.
I'd like this council to appoint me in charge of the sidewalk fund, balancing it for the remainder of my term.
Second.
And I'll show you if they're right or wrong.
So just to clarify, Mr. Maniscalco, when you read the title,
Yes, sir.
will that be to include that? Are you reading the one that Mr. Bide or I guess the legal staff provided that strikes the half-mile school provision?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
As I
well,
read
Mr.
this ordinance
Yes.
for second reading, Mr. Shelby, can I just, although it's not here on my agenda, can I just verbally add it to strike that half-mile requirement?
No, sir. The question, I think the documents that you have in front of you that look like they were provided by Mr. Michelini, I'm asking the clerk.
No, that's a different document.
That's a-
There was another document that was, I think, provided by legal staff
Yeah.
that omitted that one provision.
Yes, that
Is it on
reflects-
file with the clerk? It should be on file with the clerk, the substitute
Yes,
ordinance.
it's reflected on the agenda, so we do have it as the backup material as well.
That's a
Thank you.
substitute
Is that-
amendment.
So what, if I can be clear, thank you, Mr. Dingfelder. So what you're saying, Madam Clerk, is what appears on the title below, based on the memorandum, is that actually, it's not a substitute then? Is it actually the one that's submitted, or does it replace a previous one?
This is the one that was submitted on Monday from the Chief of Staff Office from the Legal Department. So this is the title of the draft ordinance that was
Okay, so
presented.
it is in front of me here. I just didn't see any omission of the,
The title stayed the same.
okay, that's fine.
Title stayed the same, but I think it's important for the record
I see
that,
it.
One of order, gentlemen. One at a time, one at a time.
Yep, thanks.
Mr. Dingfelder, you're recognized.
I'm good. Go ahead, Mr.
Okay, so
Maniscalco.
I will read the
Let's
one
go
be-
back, because we moved to close. We didn't finish because Mr. Miranda jumped in, so we moved to close
Move.
by you. Second by Mr. who- All right, second by Miranda, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted. Mr. Maniscalco, recognized to read the order.
I am reading the ordinance that is below on the agenda saying, under title of draft ordinance listed below. Okay, which is the correct one? I have an ordinance being presented for second reading and adoption, an ordinance of the City of Tampa, Florida relating to sidewalk construction and the Sidewalk Trust Fund, making revisions to the City of Tampa Code of Ordinances, Chapter 22, Streets and Sidewalks, amending Article 1, Administrative Provisions, Division 3, Fee Authority and Types, Permits, Inspections, Subdivision 3, Sidewalk, Section 22-103, when new sidewalk construction is required, contributions to Sidewalk Trust Fund in lieu of constructing a sidewalk, amending Section 22-104, Sidewalk Trust Funds, repealing on ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict therewith, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
Second by Mr. Dingfelder. Roll call. Mr. Shelby, you recognize, sir.
I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, I just want to make this perfectly clear because I believe what you're reading today is the title of the ordinance is identical to us at first reading, but it really is a substitute of what was read at the first reading, and it does not need to go back to first reading. I just want to confirm that with the legal department, that this is in fact a substitute for second reading that doesn't require it going back. Is that correct, Mr. Perez?
That is correct.
Thank
That
you.
is correct.
Thank you very much. So could that be as made as part of the motion that that this is a substitute, or is it not necessary? Because technically it is not identical to what was read at first reading.
It's a modified
Yes.
version of the first ordinance.
And that's-
And specifically, it struck the, it struck.
We're discussing now, so.
Should I move to reopen?
Move to reopen.
Yeah, we open this hearing because I don't want the record
Second.
to reflect some other things that I don't want clarification.
Mr. Miranda, that's reopened. Mr. Citro, second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? We're back open. All right, so let's do this. We have the legal department in the conference room. Give us the legal description of this ordinance and how we need to proceed, so Mr. Shelby can give us the go-ahead to move this ordinance and we move along.
Yes, so the title did not change, but the substitute has the changed language, so there is no need to revise anything. The substitute language that was just read is fine.
Mr. Miranda, you're recognized.
The title did not, and the substitute was submitted, it's on file.
But I think for the record, just to make it really clear, I think yourself or some other in your department ought to put what the changes were, so that it's clarity going in and there's no ambiguity in case something happens in the future.
Sure, okay. Patrick Perez, Assistant City Attorney. For the record, between first and second reading, the only difference has been that in Section 22-103, C sub 1, that the following will be stricken from the first reading draft, which states, unless the parcel is located within a half mile of a school. That has been stricken between first and second reading. The title has not changed.
Any other questions?
Mr. Chairman,
You recognize Mr.
then I would have to amend my motion to accept the substitute. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
No.
No? I can just leave it as is and we're good to go because the title hasn't
Correct.
changed, but the substance has.
The title can change and you are working from the substitute ordinance.
Very good.
All right, motion
Thank
closed.
you.
Motion closed?
Maniscalco, second by Citro, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion granted. Mr. Maniscalco,
All right.
you ready?
The title was read.
I already read the title. Do you want me to do it again? I mean, it's the same
Well,
thing.
that's why we reopened it, so we can clarify that. We close it now, so now we go back to you making the amended motion, and then we go with the vote.
Just read the title then.
Is that correct, Madam Clerk?
All right, then I'll read it. I mean, okay, I'll read it again. I have an ordinance being presented for second reading and adoption, ordinance of the City of Tampa, Florida, relating to the sidewalk construction of the Sidewalk Trust Fund, making revisions to the City of Tampa Code of Ordinances, Chapter 22, Streets and Sidewalks, amending Article 1, Administrative Provisions, Division 3, Fee Authority and Types, Permits, Inspections, Subdivision 3, Sidewalk, Section 22-103, when new sidewalk construction is required, contributions to Sidewalk Trust Fund in lieu of constructing a sidewalk, amending Section 22-104, Sidewalk Trust Funds, repealing all ordinances or parts of ordinances in conflict therewith, providing for severability, providing an effective date.
Second again.
May I add something to it?
Yes.
File number 71, item number 71, file number E2021-8, chapter 22. I just want to add that to the record.
All right. Second by Mr. Dingfelder. Roll call, please.
Miranda,
I'm gonna support it because the half mile is out, and I want to be named, but I'll bring that later, thank you. Yes.
Dingfelder,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Maniscalco,
Yes.
Vieira. Yes. Citro,
Yes.
and Goose.
Yes.
Motion carried unanimously.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Clerk. All right, gentlemen, it's 12 o'clock. I'm going to ask, what is your pleasure? We have, I know one of them we wouldn't get to because we got a bunch of requests. I think there's going to be item 75 is going to be long.
Recess to 1:15?
All right.
Second. Mr. Chair,
Yes, sir.
can we do 1:30?
Recess to 1:30?
Second. Please and thank you.
All right. All right, gentlemen, we'll do it, but be mindful. Let's get back at 1:30 because it's going to be a packed day this afternoon. Mr.
Wait, you got
Shelby, you
lunch?
recognize.
Just Martin Shelby, City Council Attorney, just for the guidance of the public, what is council's pleasure, and certainly guidance for staff, with the 1:30 timeframe, what does council anticipate happening when you come back at 1:30? Just so that people can plan accordingly.
From what I'm looking at right now, Mr. Shelby, I don't think 4 of the items are going to be very long, looking at what their second readings and votes. Shouldn't be too long to get past them, and then the only one that scares me is 75, to be honest with you. So what is council's pleasure? Any recommendations?
1:30.
1:30,
Please and thank you.
recess, we'll pick it up.
Thank you, council.
Recess.
Keep me guessing what's the score. It's so distressing, wondering what you got in